Chapter 1883. As the chief curator, he had seen the moment of King Ascension many times in the library. The reason why the Sereno Grand Library was able to top the list consecutively was not only because of its unique soul mechanism, but also because of a more important reason: actual results. Whether the library was good or not, it would ultimately depend on the borrower's evaluation. Compared to all the libraries, the Sereno Grand Library had the highest percentage of self-breakthroughs, and the King Ascension rate was also ranked first. Generally speaking, the curator was not interested in the breakthrough of the mythical body. After all, becoming a king was just becoming a king. Whether or not he could obtain the throne in the future was another matter. However, as a beam of starlight shot straight into the sky, stirring up a regular and orderly vortex in the chaotic and disorderly shattered dimension, the curator revealed a rare look of surprise and directly teleported out of the library from the central workshop to witness such a phenomenon of King Ascension with his own eyes. The completion of the kingdom can actually cause such a big movement in the shattered dimension. It seems that this is not only an excellent disciple of the void, but also the #1 disciple of the void in this generation. In terms of spatial talent, he is the highest among the younger generation that I have ever seen. It seems that the world that I am not in seems to have better development. If this little guy can continue to grow, he might be able to shake or even replace the master of the void. When he mentioned Teacher You, a hint of fear flashed in the curator's eyes. Seeing that the void opportunity had helped a certain amount in the past, I will consider it as returning the favor this time. The curator locked his gaze on Bob, who was undergoing the transformation of King Ascension. He raised his right arm. The yellow satin hanging on the surface of his arm through the hook also floated along with his arm. His 5 synapse-like fingers had already marked Bob's soul. Around his brain, those tongue-like tentacles also formed a special soul array at the back of his head. Whoosh! Soul threads shot out from his palm and connected to the vital soul nodes in Bob's body to ensure the complete stability of his soul body during the process of King Ascension. This was not a big deal for the curator. However, it was too important for Bob. King Ascension was to turn the scene in the mythical picture into reality and establish the foundation of the kingdom. Any disturbance could cause the foundation to be unstable, and the subsequent development of the throne would be affected. The curator monitored the state of Bob's soul. At the same time, he watched this starlight pillar that shot out from the astronomy library. This pillar of light appeared at the right time to harmonize the rules between dimensions. Perhaps it can attract the attention of those invaders and lure them here. Because of Pop's ascension to the throne, the Origin Stone tablet also began to change. It was to the extent that the protoplasmic bodies recorded on it were able to sense it. In a room personally built by the primordial Chaos ancestor in the royal palace of the Chaos Court, it was filled with tiny holes. They looked small, but each hole could transform into a huge abyss. These abyssal holes were like mouth parts, sucking in the purest and most high-quality chaos aura from the depths of the palace. All of the abyssal caverns were intertwined in the deepest parts of the abyssal caverns, all of them leading to the same region. The aura of the chaos was constantly surging into this place, passing through the ancient stone tubes and into the body of a humanoid statue. Suddenly, the stone statue's eyes suddenly opened, and a terrifying whisper reverberated in the air. "Bob, this fellow is really annoying." Final northern continent, at the foot of Osiris Iceberg, there was a small village with smoke rising from its chimneys. The weak and inferior Womi people with weak bloodlines were living here. The village chief was the only newborn hybrid demon. A few months ago, a young blacksmith came to the village. As long as they brought back ice cubes of sufficient size, the blacksmith would be able to forge weapons that were absolutely suitable for him, greatly increasing the hunting efficiency of the village. The villagers were also very grateful to this blacksmith and completely accepted him. Whenever there was any activity in the village, they would warmly invite him to participate in it. Currently, the blacksmith who was forging ice crystals had used too much force with his hammer and almost released a terrifying ice flame that could burn everything within a radius of 10 miles. It was forcibly suppressed by the young man at the moment of eruption. "Bop, is your progress so fast?" Seriously, the state of mind that had finally calmed down was slightly disturbed again. Deep sea, a derivative world filled by the endless ocean. A huge city that was eternally asleep was located in the deepest part. As the favored one, the eighth protoplasmic body, Hyde, Darius, due to his recent outstanding performance, received the rarest opportunity in the deep sea. Sleep with the great lord of the deep sea. As if sensing something, a smile also appeared on Hyde's face during his deep sleep. He was happy for Bop from the bottom of his heart. At the bottom of the library, Eugenius, who was happily picking up corpses, was suddenly stunned. After muttering a few words, he didn't waste any more time and immediately took out the corpse-eating cult ritual. Actually, Eugenius had already collected 9 ancient corpses long ago. He only wanted to use the opportunity in the library to get more of these old corpses. Perhaps they would be of use to his future training. Since Bop had already broken through, he naturally couldn't wait any longer. At least, he couldn't let the gap between them widen. "Bop, this fellow is too exaggerated. He's actually faster than the other 2 monsters." Becoming king was obviously different from the previous few stages of breaking through, as it involved the transformation from virtual to reality. The construction of the territory of the kingdom required a longer process. For Bop, who was extremely talented and had a special domain of the Great Path of Void, it required even longer time. The star particles that burst out from his body had to be precisely arranged according to the picture on the scroll. During this process, Bop's original body had even completely disintegrated his body as one and mixed it into this miniature universe as all. The one in all, the all-in-one. This is the first concept of knowledge that teacher imparted to me when I was born in the void and obtained my own consciousness. I didn't expect to actually use it here. The miniature universe that was the territory of the kingdom was completed. 1. All of a sudden, this flawless universe suddenly collapsed, annihilating everything and returning to the singularity in the center. With the singularity as the core, a human-like body was outlined by the star lines. Bop was reborn in a floating state. When his feet touched the ground, a layer of space rippled out at the same time. He could almost feel the detailed structure of the entire library. The next second, Bop immediately prostrated himself on the ground and expressed his heartfelt gratitude in a certain direction. At the same time, a soul voice transmitted. "In the past, I received a favor from the void, which allowed me to protect myself. This time, I'm returning the favor. Something is approaching the library. You guys should make some preparations. It should be an intruder that followed you guys here." Okay. Chapter 1884. The curator was not good at perception. However, through the perception system of the library, he detected that 2 completely different spacecraft were approaching the library. As for what kind of intruder was hiding inside, due to the shielding effect of the spacecraft, it could not be detected for the time being. However, no matter what kind of existence the other party was, the curator was confident in dealing with it. He even disliked the fact that the other party was so small. If possible, he would rather have an army to besiege. Mid-level library, story house. After a whole month, Han Dong had finished reading 317 character storybooks. He had basically experienced the life of all the types of hybrid demons. Now, when he finished reading the 318th storybook, the puzzle fit of Faceless Myth finally reached 100%. Han Dong had completed all the cognition outside of himself and completely connected faceless and all faceless. When the soul returned from the book, the body showed a curled state. Floating in the air, the faceless skull was just in the center of the curled circle, showing an unprecedented state of adaptation. Looking at the current Han Dong from different angles, one could see the different forms of the hybrid demons. Not only the visual changes, but even the exuding breath perfectly matched the different types of hybrid demons. For example, when the appearance of Shogs was expressed, the observer could smell a stench comparable to that of eugenist. It was different from the doomsday change that occurred in the circus when the Mad Laughter puzzle was completed. When the faceless myth was completed, this change was not ostentatious and was even quite restrained. According to the detection information of the brain for the puzzle, the legendary trait corresponding to the faceless myth puzzle, the faceless god, passive, in the details of this trait, in addition to the adaptation effect and the change in the form of borrowing, there was a paragraph at the end. When the fit reaches 100%, the faceless god will show his true appearance. Han Dong had never understood what this sentence meant. What was the true appearance? Was it the original braised egghead, or his original appearance as a human, or the thousands of faces like the walker? At this moment, Han Dong was transforming towards this true appearance. Whether it was the space of consciousness where the talent tree was located or the prison world corresponding to the faceless skull, they were all shrouded in thick gray fog. There were even enormous gray tentacles wriggling and churning in the clouds. The gray fog came from the deepest part of the abyss of truth. The throne stone tablet that was inlaid with mythical puzzles was constantly releasing such fog. The faceless head carved on the surface had been completely activated. Unlike the walkers, this was not a pure gray color, but rather a mixture of small spots. Every speck seemed to have a special meaning. Every speck seemed to be related to a part of Han Dong's experience, which meant that he was different from the rest. When the gray fog filled the space of consciousness and the prison world, it began to slowly express itself in the external body. There were obvious signs of the gray fog flowing between the blood vessels under the skin, between the eyeballs, and even between the breathing. Gradually, this flow converged towards the back of his head and was expressed in a special external form. A completely different tentacle, which could even be seen as a growth structure of the brain, extended from the back of the head in a perfect arc. The tentacles were a murky gray color. There was a ball-shaped object hanging from the end. If one were to use a high-level ocular technique to see through it, they would discover that the internal structure of the spherical object was extremely similar to human cells. It had a membrane, a core, and various organelles. When this structure of the back of the head was formed, Han Dong also automatically removed his suspended posture and landed steadily on the ground in a seemingly twisted but actually upright standing posture. As his body stood up normally, the tentacles that extended from the back of his head also naturally drooped down diagonally and hung behind his back. Whether it was the length of the tentacles, the size of the ball-shaped object at the tail, or the distance between it and the body, they were all in an almost perfect proportion and were not out of place at all. In addition to this important tissue derived from the back of the head, Han Dong's physical condition and face had also undergone significant changes. One face. A face that was between a smooth and round braised egg and a human face. The facial structure was faintly discernible under the skin. The slightly raised nose bridge, the faintly discernible eye socket structure, and the concave mouth. There was no whole structure on the whole. It was like a gray membrane covering the surface of the human face. 2. Physical condition. The left and right arms were not as exaggerated as before. They were expressed in a simplified form, covered in gray. The gray and smooth left arm was wrapped in a small bandage, and the palm was constantly releasing the black gas of death. The right arm was not particularly smooth because there were a few red blood vessels protruding from the surface. The whole body was more active. As for the black vortex torso, it had also been simplified. The black vortex mark that covered the entire torso had been shrunk and merged with the belly button. The black edge of the belly button in the shape of a vortex was slowly rotating. As his consciousness gradually became clear, Han Dong also clearly felt that this perfect true appearance was as if he was integrated with everything. He could even completely integrate into the library. No matter where he went, he would not be restricted or set off an alarm. Even the library staff who were monitoring here could not see Han Dong's existence at all. I am everything. I am everything. This is the top, the most perfect imitation. Similarly, I am also myself. Now I can easily switch between the self and the external me. My disguise skills have reached an unprecedented level. This form and feeling is really great. I even have the confidence to continue to sneak into the Black Tower's headquarters under the arrest of Mr. Teacher. If only there was a mirror. I really want to see what I look like now. Just as he thought of this, specks of starlight fell from the sky and gathered in front of the bookshelf to form a mirror without any impurities. Oh, what a perfect body proportion. This tentacle that extends from the back of the head also matches the body very well. This ball of end should be the external expression of cell essence. Thank you, Bop. Also, congratulations on becoming king. Bop, who had stepped down from the stars, did not change much in his overall form. It was just that the universal singularity embedded in his chest was like the most precious gem in the world, extremely dazzling, perfect and unique. Your gray is fundamentally different from the walkers. It's rare to get such high praise from you. Prepare a little. The other party seems to have found us. If the curator does not take the initiative to intervene, we may have to deal with it ourselves. Okay, since you have become a king, Bop, you don't have to be afraid of them. You can rely on them. Chapter 1885. Due to special circumstances, you can apply to the library to freeze your reading time and deal with the matter at hand first. When the impending crisis is resolved, you can calculate your remaining reading time, 69 hours. After Bop and Han Dong met up, they immediately went to inform Eugenius, who was in the writing prison. Eugenius was actually arranged to read here. Speaking of which, there aren't any books to read here. These authors should have been borrowers in the past. As the price for borrowing the books, they would be imprisoned here until they could create a book that was up to standard before they could leave. Most of these guys don't have the ability to write or enough life experience. Even if they write until they die, they won't be able to write a book that meets the library's standards. How pitiful. These books that don't meet the standards don't have much reading value. However, these writers come from ancient times. Even if they don't have enough creative ability, they are still very strong. The value of their corpses is very high. Moreover, this place is unusually large. There are probably tens of thousands of borrowers imprisoned here to write. After all, this is the #1 library. Most of the hybrid demons that are obviously hindered during their growth period want to break through their current bottleneck by borrowing the books here. In addition, the library is completely open to the public. They can come whenever they want. Naturally, there are many of them. They don't know that they can't bear the price of borrowing. At this moment, Bop had already captured the unique aura of Eugenius. He didn't need to make any gestures or open any portals. He just took a normal step forward. Along with Han Dong, he was directly teleported to the depths of the underground area. It was an open and empty area dedicated to the resting of the supervisors. An evil aura permeated the air. Through some kind of extremely viscous green gelatin, the condensation of some kind of body fluid, a complicated and profound ancient array was drawn on the ground. Outside the main array, there were 9 additional subarrays. 9 ancient corpses of completely different attributes and races were placed in them. Through the complicated array lines, these subarrays were connected to the center of the main array, which was the area where the corpse-eating cult rituals was located. The book's mouth was chewing. Using the array lines as a medium, it was eating the 9 ancient corpses from a distance. When Han Dong and Bop arrived, there were only 3% of corpses left. There was less than 3% of the ancient corpses left in each circle, and the overall gnawing process was extremely meticulous, with careful chewing and swallowing to achieve perfect absorption. As there wasn't much left, Han Dong and Bop waited quietly, not disturbing the process. Finished eating burp. A disgusting burp came from a book. Then, something squeezed out of the demonic book's throat. Whoosh! Mucus splashed everywhere. An arm with obvious signs of being pieced together stretched out from the book's mouth. The elbow joint was vertical. Ha! He pressed his palm heavily on the ground. Using the supporting force, he pulled out all the bodies that were stuck in the demonic book. The juice splashed everywhere. A body covered in a thin film and green mucus appeared in front of everyone. Eugene was already used to imitating a human form. Now, with the help of the demonic book, the body he reconstructed still looked like a human. Through the slightly transparent skin, one could even vaguely see the terrifying monster hidden in the body. When the physical body was completely formed, the demonic book automatically shrank into Eugene's body. A mouth grew on the side of his face. Its shape, structure, and even the terrifying aura it emitted were exactly the same as the mouth on the book's cover. This kind of mouth structure was clearly a sign that the demonic book had a high affinity with the physical body. At the same time, it also meant that Eugene's understanding of the demonic book had deepened. Throughout the history of the development of the hybrid demons, there were barely 5 individuals who could have such a high affinity with the demonic book. Just as Eugenus was feeling the changes in his body and the powerful feeling that was constantly surging out, he slowly noticed 2 familiar auras standing in front of him. When he opened his eyes, he was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. He already knew that Pop had become a king, but when he saw the singularity core in his chest, Eugenus was still shocked. At the same time, Han Dong's true appearance was not bad at all. Before Eugenus could say anything more, Buzz, Pop directly teleported the 3 of them to the astronomy library, where he read. Here, they could observe the situation outside the library through the atrium above their heads. With Han Dong's and Eugenus' eyes, they immediately caught sight of the approaching Origin Stone spaceship, as well as the plant planet that was rapidly approaching from another direction. When he saw this scene, Eugenus did not care at all. We don't need to worry about this at all, do we? What we should be worried about is this group of reckless intruders. If they dare to break into the library, the curator alone can kill them all. Not to mention, the Yellow Robe King is also here. Pop had a completely different view. His starry eyes could already see more things as he became a king. The things here are not things that could be seen in the normal vision, but some mysterious things about the stars, fate, and so on. Pop, who was staring at the atrium, muttered softly, maybe something unexpected will happen. Perhaps the situation will develop in an unexpected direction. We need to be prepared to face the enemy. Eugenus, who had worked together many times, naturally knew that Pop was not joking. If it really comes to a fight, I'll have to trouble Pop to contain the most powerful guy. Nicholas and I will try our best to deal with the weaker opponents. Okay, the enemy attack was approaching. The curator in the central workshop had clearly observed the 2 completely different spacecraft through the equipment here. At the same time, he was also prepared to annihilate the enemy. Of course, he would not directly launch a long-range attack. For outsiders who dare to invade the sovereignty of the hybrid demons, directly killing them was far from enough. Come into my library. I will treat you well. I hope your brains can satisfy me. If that's the case, I might eat your souls as dipping sauces instead of torturing you endlessly. What is this feeling? Suddenly, the curator, who was sitting leisurely in the throne, suddenly stood up as if he had been touched in the deepest level. The part buried in the depths of his memory that was set as an absolute forbidden zone was suddenly activated by a smell. A yellow-robed body that he hated and loathed emerged in his memory. This feeling could not be suppressed at all. It kept surging out on the surface and even disrupted the state of mind that had settled down for countless eras. How can it be? Why is he here? He no longer cared about the raw stone spaceship and focused all his attention on the plant planet. Even with the hindrance of the planet's enchantment, the curator could still use this familiar soul sense to spy on the yellow-robed individual located in the deepest part of the planet. Little did he know, the yellow-robed king opposite him had long collapsed in front of the desk. All his tentacles drooped weakly on the ground. He had an indifferent expression on his face. Chapter 1886. Stone Spaceship. As they were close to the current area, the bridge switched to panoramic mode in order to observe the wonder in front of them clearly. What appeared before the eyes of the runaways and the engineers was an ancient building covered in crimson, wrinkled leather. It was so ancient that it was tens of millions of years older than the earliest things they knew. What a magnificent building this is! The combination of biological structure and ancient technology has jumped out of our aesthetic realm. I didn't expect there to be such a complete and lively building floating in this broken dimension. No wonder my soul perception was obviously hindered. They were hiding in such a building. What's wrong with these hybrid demons? Why did they leave such a valuable building in the broken dimension? Or did they deliberately preserve it here? Glasses, who was in charge of perception, was completely shocked by the library in front of him. What an incredible building! Even Mr. Teacher gave a very high evaluation. At the same time, he showed a happy expression. I didn't expect our tracking journey to be so rewarding. If we can pack up this building and bring it back, its significance will surpass all the current exploration work in the dimension. It's even more valuable than the broken page. Of course, we must be careful in this operation. The reason why such a building can maintain such integrity is very likely that there are powerful hybrid demons guarding it. Mr. Teacher, should we call for reinforcements? Just send a normal signal. Don't make things too big. If we can solve it directly, that's naturally the best. Okay, we'll use the same exploration mode as before. I'll personally lead the team. Glasses and Bullet will follow me. The rest of the crew will stay on the spaceship and monitor the situation outside the building in real time. At the same time, we'll ensure that the spaceship is intact and can perform subspace jumps at any time. If we encounter unexpected dangers during the exploration of this building, we'll immediately return to the spaceship and quickly evacuate this place. Although Mr. Teacher hated Han Dong to the core, he would never lose his most basic rationality because of this hatred. The ancient building in front of him was extremely valuable. He would definitely put exploration and capture the building first. It would be best if he could kill Han Dong along the way. Inside the library, Curator's state of mind had completely changed. After confirming that the king in the yellow robe was really nearby and was approaching on a strange planet, he made a decision in his heart. He was ready to end the hatred that had accumulated for several eras. 1. The curator's terrifying body appeared in the astronomy library. Han Dong and the others, who were preparing for battle, were also shocked by the curator's sudden appearance. Curator. Compared to the incoming intruders, I have a more important private matter to deal with. While I'm dealing with it, I'll give you some authority over the library. Make use of the advantages of the library and properly entertain these ungrateful intruders. Don't worry, leave it to us. Bob, who had a deep understanding of history, knew very well what the curator meant by private matters. Moreover, he seemed to have foreseen such a change in advance. Since it was inconvenient for the curator to help, Bob also decisively accepted this task. The library's partial authority was a good thing. Yes, the curator disappeared. In a state of invisibility, he appeared in the direction of the library facing the planet of plants. He quietly waited for the planet to approach so that it could connect with the library. Due to the restrictions placed on him by the site, he had to wait until the connection was completed before he could step onto the planet of plants. When the curator left, Bob and the others also received the notification that they had obtained authority. Available authorities include 1. You could directly give orders to ordinary employees. 2. You can obtain a detailed structural diagram of the library and carry out a plate migration of the basic area. 3. You can obtain access to the monitoring room. Han Dong gave his first combat advice. The monitoring room must be put to good use, but the combat power of the three of us is indispensable. How about this? The doctor will go to the monitoring room and monitor the areas where the intruders arrive in real time and report to us. The swollen doctor had been released and established a brain connection with each other. The doctor immediately patted his brain and said seriously, "Leave the monitoring and transmission of information to me. Leave the monitoring and information transmission to me. I will share the real-time images directly into your brains without any delay." Bop also approved of the doctor. He nodded and continued. Next is the choice of the battlefield. The detailed structural diagram of a library has been displayed in our minds. Do you have any ideas? When this question was thrown out, Bop and Han Dong looked at Eugenius at the same time. Eugenius quickly reached out and hugged his body. What are you doing? Don't say you want to use my meat mountain as a battlefield. My meat mountain has just been repaired, and there's more than one enemy this time. No one said we want to use your black meat mountain. Instead, we'll use the underground area where you previously practiced the demonic book as a battlefield. This can minimize the damage to the library and suppress the battle here to a minimum. In addition, the underground area where the riders are imprisoned has a complex structure and a large scale. It's very suitable for us to fight guerrilla warfare. Nicholas and I have the same idea. The problem now is how to lead them underground. When Bop threw out this question, Han Dong immediately raised his right hand. Leave this to me. Moreover, I can maintain 100% consciousness communication with the doctor. With the help of the monitoring, we'll definitely be able to successfully lead them underground. You guys prepare well below. The opponent isn't a simple character. The strongest one may even be stronger than the bank employee. Han Dong, in his true appearance, revealed an invisible sense of absolute confidence. Bop nodded. Finally, I'd like to remind you, our battle this time isn't to win, but to interfere and stall for time. When the matter between the curator and Yellow Robe is resolved, everything will be over. After that, everyone looked at each other and began the operation. Just to be clear, the planet of plants is guarded by Yellow Robe, and its surface is wrapped in a layer of soul membrane for concealment. The detection system of the stone spaceship can't detect it. The other party doesn't know that the planet of plants is approaching. Library port. 3 figures descended one after another. Mr. Teacher's second incarnation, the dark sky demon, walked in front. Just as they stepped from the port into the front garden, an irresistible restriction hit them instantly. Even Mr. Teacher was shocked. The second incarnation, which had reached the middle level, was suppressed. Teleportation and flying were all prohibited. Who built this place? Just as Mr. Teacher was hesitating whether to continue moving forward, a gardener with a soul head and a suit wrapped in thorns walked out from the side and bowed to everyone. The Great Sereno Library welcomes everyone. Since you were able to find this place in the boundless dimensions, the library will give you 3 hours of reading time for free. If you're interested, please follow me. Chapter 1887. Library. Due to the sudden appearance of the restrictive force field, Mr. Teacher was actually very worried about the unknown territory that they were about to explore. After all, if the restrictive force field could successfully affect the second clone, it meant that there was a high probability that there was an existence of at least the same level guarding this place. However, the situation in front of him was a little unexpected. When Mr. Teacher was imprisoned, he had read a lot of information about the hybrid demons. He knew very well that this special race had a strong sense of territory. They saw themselves as the top of the food chain and did not care about other species at all. Breaking into the hybrid demon's territory like this should be targeted directly. However, the gardener in front of him did not have any hostility. He even sent a kind invitation. The owner's voice sounded in his mind. Mr. Teacher, the other party's soul, did not fluctuate at all. He is not lying. He is indeed inviting us, but we can't tell whether the nature of the invitation is good or bad. We have never seen the restrictive force field here before. It can effectively restrict our flight and teleportation. Once we enter it, it will be difficult to escape. How about we wait for reinforcements to arrive and then go in together? The owner's suggestion was reasonable, but it would take a long time to wait. The nearest ship that received the signal for reinforcements would take at least 2 months to arrive. Mr. Teacher thought for a while and made a decision. Let's go in and take a look. Maybe it is an unexpected opportunity for us. This building has been cut off from S01. It is most likely abandoned for some reason. The former manager may have long disappeared, but the corresponding restrictions were left behind. You have to be careful. If you encounter a problem that you can assess during the journey to the library, retreat immediately. Okay, the reason why Mr. Teacher decided to explore was very simple. At first, they did not know what this ancient and magnificent building was. It looked like an ancient biological castle, but also like an ancient flesh and blood hatchery. They did not expect this building to be a library. Whether it was the characteristics of the building or its age, it was beyond Mr. Teacher's knowledge. As a knowledge seeker, Mr. Teacher also liked to read all kinds of books. He often understood some important things from books, but he could not resist the temptation in front of him. Even if it meant putting his second clone in danger, he would not hesitate. He could not wait to see what kind of books were stored in such an ancient library. By the way, can you pinpoint the exact location of Han Dong's soul? I can't do it. Maybe it's because of the limitations of the library, or maybe it's because of some changes in his body. The soul signal he emitted became hazy. We can only confirm that he is hiding in this area, but we can't pinpoint his exact location. Mr. Teacher, who had been tricked once, was naturally more cautious. He even looked at the gardener in front of him many times. He even secretly used his preaching ability to secretly enslave the gardener's soul. As they followed the gardener around the huge front garden, the two of them began to walk. Some kind of monitoring device that belonged to the library was collecting their data. It was not a camera hidden in every corner or a shared eyeball that grew on the gardener. Instead, it was something of an even higher level. It was created by Yellow Robe and completely integrated into the library, the soul eye. This eye could clearly monitor the situation in any area. At the same time, it could detect the soul state of an individual. With the existence of this soul eye, it could effectively ensure the stability of the library. As for anyone who wanted to cause trouble in the library, it could also detect their soul state in advance and restrict them. The monitoring information was sent to the brains of Han Dong and the others through Dr. Swollen. Currently, some of the information obtained about the Rampager was as follows. 1. A demon with a large body covered in black muscles. There were 8 symmetrical eyes in the head and a pair of big wings on its back that were difficult to analyze. At the same time, it also had a rare heterochromatic soul. The soul body was pure black in color, and the edge showed a different kind of flame outline. Level estimate, middle 2. An ordinary-looking middle-aged man wearing glasses. On the surface, there was nothing special about him, but his soul was even more special than the leader. It belonged to the rarer twin soul. One of the souls wearing glasses cooperated with the body and carried out normal actions. The other soul, whether it was the appearance, shape, or the aura it exuded, was completely different. It was even somewhat difficult to see clearly under the cover of the main soul. It could only be seen that a certain reptilian creature was sticking multiple ears to the ground at the same time and entering some kind of soul perception. It could even detect the monitoring behavior of the soul eye. Level estimate, lower 3. The appearance was an old woman with both eyes dug out. Her body was covered in a camouflage coat, and she walked with steel-nailed legs. The camouflage coat was made of a special, uncontrollable material that could greatly hinder the soul's penetration. It could only vaguely see a mass of rotten, cursed flesh piled up in the coat. Even during the penetration, it could faintly hear a burst of creepy old laughter. Level estimate, lower. After receiving the information, the gardener in charge of leading the way flashed a smile on his face. They came to the long red bridge that led to the library. The area ahead is not an area that I can set foot in. When you cross the long bridge and reach the interior of the library, there will naturally be internal personnel to meet you. The gardener had no intention of following them. This kind of action also slightly dispelled Mr. Teacher's concerns. When they crossed the bridge, they did not fall vertically into the depths of the library to be examined by the House of Representatives. Han Dong had already used the authority of the library to open the door in advance for them. There was no need to examine a group of people who were about to die, and there was no need to let them see the situation of the House of Representatives. When the 3 rampagers had completely stepped into the library and the door was closed, the gardener, standing at the other end of the long bridge, immediately revealed a long-suppressed, crazy smile. Ha ha ha! What a coincidence. Mr. Teacher, why are you here again? Fortunately, I made preparations in advance. Han Dong, who was disguised as the gardener, directly pulled out a pseudo-ghoul that had been influenced by preaching from his body. This makes me feel so embarrassed. This avatar of yours seems to be even more powerful. If it is killed again, will you be angered to death in advance? At that time, there will be no fun for you. Unexpectedly, he learned that the rampager who was chasing him was actually Mr. Teacher. This made Han Dong fall into a state of unprecedented excitement. He just wanted to try his new true appearance to see if he could deceive Mr. Teacher again. He changed his body. He turned into the appearance of an internal staff member of the library, followed a hidden designer path, and went inside the library again to receive Mr. Teacher and the others. Chapter 1888. Mr. Teacher and his group were led by an honest staff member. They walked through a huge and deep passage in the library. However, the passage they were going through was much longer than the one Han Dong and the others walked through last time. Don't worry, everyone. The time we spend here will not be included in the free reading time, so please follow me. Mr. Teacher asked impatiently, "How much longer? We're almost there." There were two purposes for doing this. First, to wear down the other party's patience and lower their vigilance. Second, at the same time, to buy more time. He hoped that the curator and the yellow robe could settle the matter between them faster. Through the eye of the soul, he monitored Mr. Teacher's condition in real time. When he was about to explode, the swollen professor immediately sent the information back to Han Dong, who was leading the way. The long passage in front of them immediately changed, and 3 forks appeared. As you walk through the library has tailor-made the best reading area for you. Please go to the corresponding reading area and enjoy the best soul reading. Mr. Teacher shook his finger and rejected the suggestion. No, the 3 of us need to stay together for special reasons. The staff member who led the way also responded with a smile. Of course, this is the convenience provided by our library. If you don't accept, we won't force you. Then, please choose any passage. I believe that the deepest part of the library will satisfy you. Remember, you only have 3 days of free reading time. Don't exceed the time limit. Mr. Teacher chose the passage in the middle and led the group inside. Han Dong, who was disguised as an employee, stood quietly at the fork and waved goodbye to them. This kind of natural and flawless disguise is really great. Also, after being tricked by me once, Mr. Teacher became extremely cautious. Whether it was the gardener or the staff here, he checked from different directions many times. There were a few times when he almost gave us away. With my current ability, if I'm caught, I'm afraid I'll be killed instantly. How exciting! The process of leading the way is smooth. Next, it's time for the official battle. Han Dong had already guessed that Mr. Teacher was being cautious and had no understanding of the library. Therefore, he would not split up. The setting of the fork in the road was a deliberate distraction to lower one's vigilance. Moreover, with the help of the modular design of the library, the space of the library could be pieced together and adjusted at will. The 3 forks in front of him all led to the underground area. At this moment, Han Dong also contacted his 2 teammates through the LAN in his mind. Bop, the guy you're going to deal with next isn't a simple rampager, but the incarnation of a certain superior. This superior being is Mr. V, the teacher that I met during the visit that I told you about before. According to my observations, this clone's destructive power is stronger than the ones I've encountered before. At the same time, it also has Mr. Teacher's ability to lose control. Preach. It was this ability that caused the control headquarters to lose control unknowingly. It was a subconscious enslavement that was difficult to detect. I used the dual brain mode to let a bionic ghoul cultivated from my stem cells receive the preaching. Can you block it, Pop? If we're not confident, we'll choose to avoid the battle and let them stay here to read. We'll just wait for Curator to come back and deal with them. The preaching was indeed tricky. It was even listed as one of the most dangerous effects of losing control by the Black Tower. Once affected, any individual would undergo a transformation. Even if one's mental strength was strong, it could only affect the time of the transformation. In the end, it would still slowly evolve into a student. However, Bob's voice transmission was unusually firm. Please let me meet this Mr. Teacher incarnation. It would be a pity if I missed the opportunity to meet such a big shot who could make the Black Tower go out of control irreversibly. If I'm really affected by the preaching, it's because I'm not capable enough. Teacher, you will definitely find out and execute me immediately. Then let's follow the original battle plan. He didn't know why. Han Dong felt that there was something wrong with Bop's words. There seemed to be a hint of stubbornness in them. Bop, this guy. Could it be that because I've had direct contact with Mr. Teacher and avoided the influence of the preaching, he wants to give it a try himself? However, he should be fine. Then, Han Dong changed the topic to Eugenics. Hey, Eugenics, pick one of the remaining 2 people who are more suitable to deal with. Leave that old woman to me. Her body hidden in her clothes seems to be very sensitive, and it exudes a curse aura that I've never seen before. I personally like this kind of body with special flesh. Hiss, like? Eugenics, your taste is a bit heavy. The other party is a lower-level rampager. Don't mess it up. Then, leave the bespectacled uncle to me. It just so happens that I'm also more interested. Underground area. After Bop's advanced preparations and arrangements, the basement, which was originally used to imprison writers, became slightly cleaner. At the same time, some books were transferred here for Mr. Teacher and the others to read. Of course, these books were low-level books that had just passed the threshold of the library. Even the lowest-level books. When the teachers and the others saw the exquisite design of these books, they were still greatly shocked. Especially the bespectacled boss, who was proficient in the path of the soul, was immediately shocked by the soul traction design of the book cover. He had never imagined that he could actually draw his soul into a book in this way and immerse himself in reading. The bespectacled boss held a book and said excitedly, "This way, we will definitely gain something and experience a completely different life experience. It will greatly help our understanding. Moreover, these books record the life stories of the hybrid demons. We can also take this opportunity to deepen our understanding of the hybrid demons and bring back more useful information." Mr. Teacher also nodded in agreement. Well, this is really good stuff. However, the risk here has not been eliminated. Han Dong is still hiding here. They came early. Maybe they're also reading books or hiding in a corner. I will try reading with the bespectacled boss first. Bullet, you are responsible for the safety here. The old woman nodded. She was not very interested in reading books, and in her bleeding eye sockets, there were only various kinds of rotten meat and bullets. Her special vision was not suitable for reading books. When she opened the book, her soul was sucked in. Mr. Teacher and the bespectacled boss could both understand the mystery of it. Moreover, they could stop reading at any time. Their consciousness did not disappear during the reading period. They knew very well that they were in the book world, and there were no traps in the book. Mr. Teacher, who had a strong thirst for knowledge, was no longer worried about anything. He immediately immersed himself in this kind of soul reading that he had encountered for the first time. During the reading period, he gained a lot, and even the black flame in his soul became more scorching. This is really an incredible reading experience. Even if we can't move this library back to B, C, when we complete our escape and all of us are transferred here, we will definitely occupy this place as soon as possible. The books here can increase our overall combat strength by a level. Just as Mr. Teacher finished reading a book, showed a satisfied expression, and gave a very high evaluation. Suddenly, he smelled a trace of something wrong. By the time the 8 eyes on his forehead opened, his teammates were already gone. Instead, there was a young man with a star head who was reading a book normally. Chapter 1889. Mr. Teacher was a little confused about the sudden situation in front of him. Although he was somewhat addicted to the soul book, he was still worried about the unknown and the hybrid demon building. Although 90% of his mind was immersed in the story, he still left 10% of his mind outside. While reading the book, he did not feel anything unusual. Not to mention, The old lady called Bullet was in charge of guarding the book the whole time. Space. A teleportation warlock without any energy fluctuations. Even if it is discovered, the teleportation has already started and there is no way to stop it. Come to think of it, the structure of this underground area is quite complicated and the area is very large. Once we are separated, it will be difficult for us to reunite, right? The 8 eyes on the forehead of the second incarnation, Black Sky Demon, stared at Bop, especially the special starry sky brain and the singularity embedded in his chest. You could be so pure. This is the first time I have seen such a pure space life form like you. Before, in the depths of the stone mountain, before my black flame attacked, the person who randomly teleported the whole team away was you. I didn't expect that Han Dong would have so many interesting friends around him. You are really amazing. You can teleport between dimensions without the help of external objects. Furthermore, your spatial ability doesn't seem to be restricted in this ancient library. You set up a teleportation spell in this underground reading room in advance. While we were reading the book, you could instantly teleport us to a single point and separate us. When he said this, Mr. Teacher showed a happy smile. Even the 8 glasses were slightly curved to express his joy. This is also good. Like your design, you have to painstakingly lead us to the depths of the library and try to defeat us one by one. This indirectly shows that there is no stronger hybrid demon guarding the library. In this case, I can be completely at ease. First, I will defeat all of you and capture you alive. Slowly occupy this invaluable library. At the same time, I can use you to fill in the space avatar that I lost not long ago. If Bop was wearing a loss of control detector, his index would have already crossed the red line. As he spoke, a burst of strong preaching was constantly transmitted into Bop's brain. As time passed, Bop's expression did not change. Instead, Mr. Teacher showed a frowning expression. The principle of preaching. It was to sow a seed-like substance into the other party's consciousness through sound, smell, touch, and other interactive behaviors. This process was silent and unstoppable. However, when Mr. Teacher wanted a seed pop, he encountered a big problem. There was no place for the seeds of preaching to be sown. Bop's brain was like an endless universe, and there was no way to find the main body of consciousness to be sown. The seeds were merely drifting in the universe, unable to take root. At this moment, Pop's voice echoed in the room. Nicholas told me about your ability to preach, so I've already taken precautions in advance. You don't need to try again. Bring out the destructive power of this avatar. Come on. As soon as he finished speaking, the black wings on Mr. Teacher's back suddenly spread out. The strong wind that was stirred up whistled endlessly in the library, blowing away almost all the books, and the bookshelves collapsed one after another. Some sort of violent wind power had already accumulated in his black wings, and he was about to unleash a terrifying speed that was hard to comprehend. In fact, he could already foresee the scene of Bop being choked and pinned against the wall. However, just as the wings were about to flap, Bop forcefully closed the book in his hand. When the pages collided, some star particles burst out. Starlight intertwined. A universe cage enveloped Black Sky Demon's huge body, forcibly interrupting his forward movement. Plain suppression. In the blink of an eye, one could even vaguely see the palm of the star giant pressing down on Mr. Teacher's body. But the next second, a strange heat wave overflowed from the surface of Black Sky Demon's body. Even the light of the stars was burned to nothing by these black flames, and the restraints were naturally broken free. However, these overflowing black flames only burned the cage before returning to the body. Well, you are much stronger than the average fake Wangdu. Your talent may be even higher than Han Dong's. I really want you to become my student. Mr. Teacher looked at Bop with eyes filled with appreciation and greed. At the same time, he made a strange bending motion, picked up a book that had been blown to the ground, and carefully put it back on the bookshelf. Let's wait for a while. If I burn the ancient books here, it will be troublesome. The value of each of these books is immeasurable. How about we move the library out of here first? or we can fight in another place. How about it? Mr. Teacher was also a person who loved books. He even imagined that the library would be his own property, so he could reduce the damage here as much as possible before seizing it. Okay, under Bop's lead, the two of them came to a deeper underground area. It was the body warehouse used by the library to store the corpses of the writers. The corpses of the writers, hybrid demons, here would originally go through a series of processing. The valuable parts would be used as staff meals, and the worthless parts would be used as fertilizer for the front garden. Of course, with the arrival of eugenists, the large number of corpses that had been piled up here had all been disposed of. Except for the smell, it could be said that it was clean and hygienic. The warehouse area was empty and open, and it was extremely well sealed. It was very suitable for the upcoming battle. The moment the two of them arrived here, the battle was about to start. The black flames that were capable of burning physical objects, spirits, magic, and even the natural laws had been completely unleashed. Not a single corner was left untouched. There was no place to hide at all. The place where Bop stood was also covered by the black flames, as if it was being devoured. When most of the black flames were retracted, only a singularity crystal was suspended in the air. The black flames were unable to cause any damage to this crystal. In a short period of time, Bop's body was rapidly constructed in the form of interconnected stars, a rather advanced type of flame. Its danger level can be ranked in the top 5 among all the flames I have seen. If that fellow Aslan reaches the king level, the danger level of his polar ice flame should be above this. These provocative words only made Mr. Teacher frown slightly. I just want to test your abilities. After all, I don't want to accidentally burn your body and soul. After all, I still want to establish a teacher-student relationship. Since you can ignore this kind of large-scale burning, why don't you try this move? He raised his index finger. The black flames that had been released earlier were accumulating at the tip of his index finger, compressing and condensing into a small black ball. In a split second, Bop sensed an unprecedented sense of danger. Whoosh! The small ball shot straight at him. Bop tried to distort time and space to change the trajectory of the small ball and affect its speed. However, all of this was ineffective. The small ball could completely burn all the physical movements that tried to affect it. Furthermore, it had already locked on a Bop through the eye of the heavenly demon, just as it was about to hit. TSK. Bop showed an unhappy expression. A ball of flesh the size of a ping-pong ball popped out of his right finger. It was the void meat bubble. When the two substances collided, the void meat bubble sucked the small ball of black flames into it. The terrifying black flames exploded inside the meat bubble. When it burned out, the energy of the void meat bubble also dissipated. Like a small ball that had been carbonized, it shattered into carbon powder. What did you just pop out of it? Some kind of materialized space? No, it's more detailed than a materialized space. It already has the attribute of life. How amazing! Mr. Teacher's thirst for knowledge was constantly being challenged and satisfied. His curiosity about Bop was also growing. In an excited state, he changed to close combat mode. He used the black flames to cover his entire body, especially between his terrifying claws. He flapped his terrifying wings and charged at Bop at a speed that exceeded the normal level. This speed was almost at the top among individuals of the same level. Whoosh! When the sharp claws tore down, space was scraped open. The black flames that remained in the cracks of space continued to burn. However, the sharp claws and the dark night only touched specks of starlight. Bop also used an incomprehensible super-fast teleportation and constantly changed his position in the current area. A cosmic lightsaber inlaid with singularities had already condensed in his palm. Chapter 1890. A battle that surpassed speed and space-time was taking place in the deepest part of the library. Bop, who had just become a king, also got the king adaptation in such a high-level battle. Although any mistake could cost him his life, he didn't care at all. Bop had completely regarded such a battle as an opportunity for himself. While this extravagant battle was going on, the battle was still going on. In an area far away from the underground area, this place was mainly dominated by narrow passages and forks, and at the same time, it was also interspersed with open prison cells. In such a complicated area, a strange chase was breaking out. Two shapeless bodies, one in front and one behind, were either wriggling or running. The smell of gunpowder and stench lingered in the air. The camouflage robe, used to cover the body on the granny, had been taken off. This was not some high-end equipment. In fact, it was just a container used by the granny to suppress her physical body and ensure the integrity of her physical body. Otherwise, her cursed physical body would make others feel extremely uncomfortable, and she would be rejected by the other rampagers in the shelter. This was a beehive-shaped, pear-shaped body. If one went deeper along the holes of her old, wrinkled body, one would arrive at a bullet factory. Tens of thousands of employees were producing and assembling special bullets here. The employees here were all mini versions of the granny. Moreover, every time a bullet was completed, the employee in charge of assembling it would bind it to the bullet and leave the factory together. The employees sitting on the surface of the bullet and shooting it together could do self-aiming locks and curse implantation. The granny sitting on the surface of the bullet would also drill into the body of any individual hit by the bullet, bringing a physical curse that was difficult to eradicate into the body. During the chase, gunshots rang out one after another. Although it was difficult for the granny's body to catch up with the extremely fast eugenist, the bullets could catch up. The bullets riding on the small granny could accurately change the shooting course, bypass all kinds of corners, and hit the running eugenist. There was no interference, no way to dodge. Even if the stone spear blocked the bullets, after some ejection, the bullets would still enter the body. The only solution was to let a space expert like Bop teleport the bullets out of the shooting range. No matter how far these bullets flew, as long as the employees sitting on them still had residual physical strength, the speed of the bullets wouldn't decrease. Therefore, eugenist didn't bother to block them and let the bullets enter his body. Pa! 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 Rotten flesh splattered everywhere, and several bullet holes appeared on his back. The naked grannies sitting on the surface of the bullets immediately crawled into the depths of their bodies like insects, tried to release a terrifying physical curse inside their bodies. However, the curse that was supposed to work did not react. It seemed like these old ladies who had burrowed deep into their bodies were snatched away by something before they could unleash their curses. Eugene muttered with an ugly expression, "This kind of bullet that is covered in a king-level domain is really powerful. The pain level is really high. Fortunately, the contamination in my body can effectively cancel out the strange curse that is covered in the bullet. However, there was still a risk. He did not know how the ancient ones were doing with their research. I have to wait for the results of the analysis before I have the confidence to face this guy head-on." That was right. The grannies who had crawled into Eugene's body came directly to his inner world. They were tied up by Shugas who had been modified by zombies and brought to the depths of the black mountain of flesh, where the ancient ones directly conducted biological research. If this old thing only has this move, I can slowly drag this out and secure victory. This was not the end of Eugene's thoughts. A completely different sense of danger came from behind him. It even triggered Shuga's instincts. Dozens of green tentacles grew out of his body in an attempt to block the object that was about to attack him from behind. Whoosh! The tentacles of Shugas, a mythical creature that could be said to be the most perfect creature, could not stop it at all. Whoosh! An indescribable spiral force tore everything apart. What is it? The prismatic evil eye in Eugene's body captured a completely different bullet. The caliber and length were almost 5 times that of the previous bullet. Moreover, riding on the surface of the bullet was a terrifying granny with the head of an old lady, but the body of a giant and full of muscles. Pa! The bullet was focused on the neck. Eugene's entire head, along with part of his upper body, was instantly torn apart. The remaining body slammed heavily into the wall with the impact of the bullet. The muscles on the surface of the bullet directly tore open the flesh and crawled into the depths of the body. The Shugas and zombies who had tried to kidnap her were all beaten up by this granny. They were even torn in half with her bare hands. She tried to smash the inner world with her own strength. At the same time, in another corner of the underground area, the layout here was exactly the same as the previous underground library. The bespectacled boss, who was immersed in soul reading, noticed that something was wrong and suddenly opened his eyes. Beside him, Mr. Teacher's black sky demon avatar was looking around. The surface of his body was covered with a layer of burning black flames. He reminded the boss with a vigilant look. The bullet disappeared. It should have been teleported away by some kind of spatial technique. Be careful. The bespectacled boss stared at the black sky demon with an indifferent expression and said softly, "Previously, when you disguised yourself as a gardener and library staff, I did not recognize you. I have to admit that your disguise is superb. But if you want to disguise yourself as Mr. Teacher, it is impossible." The black sky demon shrugged and slowly began to remove the disguise. I knew it. There must be a special connection between you two, right? Could it be that Mr. Teacher has also turned you into students? That's not true. The connection between us is not led by Mr. Teacher, but by me. I have performed soul binding with everyone. One of the functions is to prevent such a situation. I see. The disguise was removed. Han Dong revealed his true appearance and looked directly at the other party with a magic eye in the middle of his eyebrows. You are the perceiver, and you have the ability to perceive at the soul level. You were the one who captured my enlarged soul and brought Mr. Teacher here, right? According to the observation of the library surveillance system on you along the way, I found that you should be a stable individual. Your loss of control is mainly related to the twin soul. However, as the main soul, you should be controllable. In this case, we may be able to find a possibility of peace. Moreover, the king in the yellow robe should like a special soul like you. Since you did not become Mr. Teacher's student, now there is an opportunity in front of you. If you are willing to cut off all ties with the B, C, and join us, we will leave you a way out. I am even willing to say a few good words for you. How about it? Han Dong's seemingly arrogant proposal actually made some sense. The owner of the glasses had always felt that something was wrong with the library, and he himself did not want any accidents to happen. If an accident really happened, Mr. Teacher would only lose an avatar, and he would really die in a foreign land. The owner of the glasses pushed the frame of his glasses up. I have already noticed the hidden danger here, but Mr. Teacher insisted on going deeper into this place. As for your proposal, I am subjectively willing to accept it. However, she does not agree. In addition, you are wrong about one thing. I'm not the main soul. When he heard this, Han Dong's expression changed slightly. At the same time, he also realized that the surrounding environment had become gloomy and all kinds of sound were blocked. It was as if there was something wrong with his hearing, and it became extremely silent. Oh, I am in charge of all the daily operations. You are actually secondary? Yes, in this way, you can communicate normally with everyone. After all, she has social phobia. Now, Mr. Teacher and Granny are both not here, and you have also noticed the existence of her. Now, she wants to come out and talk to you. Sure, you can have a good talk with her about the proposal I just made. The owner of the glasses suddenly raised his hand and pointed at Han Dong's back. Yes, she has already come out. She is on your back. Chapter 1891. Containment name, Shikher, serial number, original 033 out of control type, monstrous out of control level, Prince Jack, special companion, original 033I, a middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance who needed to wear glasses at all times. Although he was a secondary body, he had an indispensable companion and restraint effect to she. After many tests, when original 033, I was in a state of suspended animation. She would break away from the companion relationship and exist independently. The danger level would increase by several stars. With the recovery of original 033, the companion and restraint effect would be reestablished. She would become docile and would not be a threat when special conditions were not triggered. Containment measures. Due to the existence of the companion relationship, original 033, I must be contained in a housing area with an area of more than 120 m squared and provide various spiritual and material needs to ensure that its mental state is maintained at a happy level for a long time and not lower than dull as much as possible. The room must be sealed above the 8th floor in a material room with soul isolation characteristics. Spiritual quality monitoring equipment must be set up between the floors to continuously analyze the state of spiritual fluctuations 24 hours a day. At the same time, employees with soul protection characteristics and wearing interference equipment must provide daily needs and even disguise themselves as neighbors to make friendly contact. In the case of meeting certain conditions, information related to certain conditions has been erased. With the consent of at least one core member of the former committee, the Black Tower Control Directorate can request original 033 to cooperate in conducting soul-related research. This process requires more than 3 senior engineers to monitor her soul index in real time. Once it exceeds a predetermined value, the work will be immediately interrupted and it will be forcibly contained. Description: she is a spiritual life with the appearance of a young woman. Its facial features can be moved at will. Under normal circumstances, it likes to switch the position of its ears and eyes and stick its ears to an object at the same time to listen. It originated from the primitive world, Base 118, Minnesota, which was sealed by special abilities. The place where the anomaly first occurred was in a shop called Roth's Glasses Shop. Because the primitive world was based on the Black Tower itself and was built with absolute stability, the truth of the entire world was sealed. The individual could only be in ordinary life and could not pursue any magic, occult, or special abilities. It was extremely rare, or even impossible, for an abnormal event to occur. In order to not affect the normal operation of the primitive world and reduce the interference value, the Black Tower employees who were suppressed to ordinary people carried out a related investigation on this optician shop. According to the initial investigation, the shop was run by 2 siblings. To be more precise, it was a younger brother who was dragging along an elder sister who had a serious mental illness and was unable to take care of herself. Although life was hard, her younger brother had always persevered. While managing the shop, he also had to take care of his sister who was locked in the back room of the optician shop. However, soon, the Black Tower employees noticed that something was wrong. One of them had attracted the boss's attention, and the other had slipped into the back room. He did not notice the sister that the residents nearby were talking about. However, he could hear strange noises and even footsteps. It was as if an invisible elder sister was living here. After collecting clear, abnormal information, the employees applied to restore their abilities and conduct a comprehensive investigation. After investigation, the shopkeeper, Mr. Rada's original 033 did have a twin sister, but she had died long ago. When they were young, their home had been invaded by a group of cult members. Their parents had been killed, and the siblings had been captured and brought to the cult's lair, where they had been tortured. When the state police found the cult's lair and wiped it out in one fell swoop, the elder sister had already died tragically. Only the younger brother, Radas, was lucky enough to survive, but the trauma to his heart was irreparable. The young Radas was sent to the best local orphanage. At the same time, the government had arranged for a psychotherapist to solve his psychological problems. As soon as Radas opened his eyes, the terrifying images in his memories would swarm out. After a long period of psychotherapy, under the influence of layers of psychological cues, the psychiatrist gave Radas a pair of glasses in the form of a gift. Once he put on the glasses, the psychological cues that had been planted before would take effect, effectively filtering out the terrifying images in his memories. Finally, Radas was able to live a normal life. However, although this pair of glasses could filter out most of the terrifying memories, it could not filter out his dead sister. In fact, the refraction was even clearer. Because he knew very well that his sister was dead, he called the woman he saw in the glasses she/her. As long as he put on the glasses, no matter the occasion, she would exist. Or squatting at the end of the orphanage's corridor, or mixing in the crowd when everyone was playing, revealing a strange smile, or taking the initiative to wave, or hiding under the blanket when he was sleeping. Moreover, the she in the glasses actually grew up with Radhas, growing up bit by bit. Slowly. Radhas even discovered that the she in the glasses could interfere with reality. The orphanage would often emit the sound of bare feet walking. No one could see it. Only Radhas knew that she was pacing back and forth in a room, or playing with a rubber ball alone in the corridor. Even when Radhas was playing with his other friends, she would first smile at Radhas and then push someone down heavily. The series of haunted events in the orphanage even attracted the attention of the church. Even if a clergyman came, it still could not affect her life. All of this calmed down when Radhas left the orphanage. The adult Radhas opened an eyewear shop with his love for glasses. Because of her existence, the eyewear shop would occasionally make strange sounds. In order to cover up the problem, they lied to the customers that there was an elder sister who could not take care of herself living here. However, the problem appeared at this time. Any customer who bought glasses would slowly see a her. At first, it would only occasionally exist in a corner, and in the blink of an eye, it would disappear. As time passed, the frequency of her appearing became higher and higher. Moreover, it could also affect reality. Even if the glasses were destroyed, this situation would still exist until the individual completely went crazy or committed suicide. In the end, Radha's original 033 eye was controlled and brought back to the Black Tower. His uncontrollable index had long exceeded the limit, and he was an extremely rare, primitive, uncontrollable body. The General Control Bureau was also very concerned about Radhas. In the short few years that he had been taken in, Radhas, who was no longer restricted by the primitive world, grew at an extremely astonishing speed. The growth rate of his uncontrollable level could even be ranked in the top 3 in the BBC. More importantly, she and Radhas's growth rate was completely synchronized. In less than 30 years, both of them reached Jack level at the same time. She's on your back. Under Radhas's reminder, Han Dong immediately felt something cold sticking to his back, and even had a direct feeling of contact with black hair. When he turned his head, the demonic eye immediately captured a somewhat blurry, spiritual individual. It was like a skinny woman was sticking to Han Dong's back, listening to the strange voice in the soul. It was this kind of sticking that completely deprived Han Dong of his hearing. However, Han Dong did not make any counterattack, struggle, or escape. He still maintained a kind smile. "Miss, you shouldn't have heard any hostility in my soul, right? Can we talk now?" When Han Dong asked the question, he was stunned. She had disappeared from his back, and the magic eye had completely lost its target. The reason why he could see her just now seemed to be Radha's suggestion. At this time, Radha stepped forward and took out a brand new pair of glasses from his pocket. "Take it out. She is willing to talk to you." Han Dong took the strange glasses in front of him, was silent for a moment, and put them on himself. In his field of vision, the skinny woman had already sat down in front of him. Her mouth, torn from torture, was showing a rare smile. She seemed to be very interested in Han Dong. Chapter 1892. He chatted with the 2 king-level rampagers in front of him. Han Dong did not directly bring out the yellow-robed king and the curator to suppress the other party. He used the absolute difference in strength to negotiate the terms of cooperation. Instead, under such a tense situation, he started to chat with the 2 siblings about their daily lives. When they talked about some things in their lives, they unexpectedly learned that both of them came from the primitive world. Such a common origin increased the mutual trust between them by a lot. During the conversation, Han Dong also quickly noticed something. This seemingly normal and cautious middle-aged man, Rotner, actually had a certain flaw in his heart, and this flaw was not small at all. As for he just suppressed, and hid this flaw in some way. Therefore, in the following conversation, Han Dong started a series of conversations with the flaw in this assumption as the center, starting from some small things in life. In terms of conversation, Han Dong did not lose to Rotner's psychiatrist at all. Once he found a suitable entry point, Han Dong's brain could instantly filter out the most suitable parenthetical words to guide Rotner to reveal more information about his life. Moreover, every topic that Han Dong brought up would effectively increase his friendliness points. As for, she just quietly listened to the conversation between her brother and Han Dong. Occasionally, a smile would appear on her black hair, and she would even laugh out loud. She did not express any opinions at all. After a while, Han Dong also began to reveal his thoughts. It seems that the reason why we can meet in this way is because we have similar experiences in our lives. When I was teaching at the university, I was kidnapped by terrorists. Because I had a certain reputation in the international community and was an important educational talent, the terrorists took advantage of this and tried to obtain greater benefits through me. During the captivity, I was also abused. When he talked about that, different emotions were flashing in Han Dong's eyes, together with the multiple changes of his facial expression, which included the tiniest cramps, aggression, and relief. It seemed that several personalities were struggling inside his body. I was imprisoned in an underground dark well that never saw the light of day. I was accompanied by rats and bedbugs all day long. I endured nearly a year of torture, but the final result was that the negotiation was unsuccessful. Speaking of which, Han Dong's emotions and tone were amplified at the same time. His body, which was originally sitting upright, suddenly leaned forward, and his face was less than 10 centimeters away from her. My head was chopped off right in front of the camera. At this point, Han Dong also made a chopping motion with his hand, separating the head from the body. After all, your souls are very special. Maybe under my persuasion, the curator will be willing to give you a way out, provided that you cut off contact with the bee. BC, Rost asked curiously, souls? Is the curator here also a strong soul master? Yes, his attainments in the soul level are unparalleled. You will know when the time comes. If the curator is in a good mood and is even willing to let you stay in the library to assist him, this will be a great opportunity for you. That's the only way. Sorry to trouble you, Mr. Han Dong. I will try my best to persuade him. Just as Han Dong was secretly rejoicing in his heart, a cold feeling of closeness came again, and the skinny she climbed onto Han Dong's back again. Sister seems to like you very much. Your body exudes a completely different soul smell, and you are not stained with the stains of others. Your soul is quite pure as a whole. By the way, do you need to help your friend? Bullet Granny is not much weaker than me, not to mention Mr. Teacher's second incarnation. Don't worry, the two of them are still very powerful. If it's just stalling for time, it's completely possible. We will just pretend to be fighting here and continue to chat about our daily lives. The home Han Dong was referring to was C, the place where the siblings lived. The two of them chatted for less than half an hour. An unimaginable soul attack suddenly hit them, penetrating the entire library and also covering the underground area. As a soul perceptor, Ross was directly shocked by this soul attack and was bleeding from all orifices. At the same time, it also indirectly proved that Han Dong's words were true. However, Ross was a little confused. Why can I feel two powerful king-level psionic powers? Chapter 1893. Library. Underground corpse disposal ruined the starlight that shone was no longer so dazzling. Even though Bop was a proud son of God and was born with a perfect affinity with a void unique to the world of S01, even though he had completed the final mythical enlightenment in the great library of Sereno and became a king at the critical moment. However, the territory of the newly formed kingdom was still unstable. Throughout history, any individual who had become a king needed to spend a lot of time and use various methods to stabilize their own king's territory. For example, they had been in seclusion for dozens of years, coupled with the nourishment of various rare materials. Or they could engage in thousands or tens of thousands of matches of the same level, polishing the king's territory through actual combat. However, Bop's choice was to engage in a battle where he could be killed at any time with the incarnation of a supreme being and a middle-level incarnation at that. If he was not careful, the newly formed king's territory would be completely burned. It was too forced. Bop retreated to the depths of the void for the time being, trying to contain the spread of his injuries as much as possible. His entire right arm had been completely carbonized, and even the starlight particles could not flow normally in his right arm. The only thing he could do was to remove the remnants of the black flames in his arm as much as possible to prevent the flames from entering his torso. Even if Bop had reconstructed his body with the singularity, the injuries would still exist. I have to hold on. Although Bop could choose to hide in the depths of the void, he could not do so. Otherwise, once the black sky demon was unrestrained, he would immediately withdraw from the current area and search for his teammates' perception. Once Han Dong and Eugenus were surrounded, they would undoubtedly die. Thinking of this, he could only step out of the void again. Who knew? Mr. Teacher knew that Bop would never hide in the void forever. He guessed that Bop would definitely be concerned about the safety of others, so he forced himself to return and stall for time. Therefore, he was relying on the characteristics of his incarnation through a move called demonic observation technique. He let the 8 eyeballs leave his body and float in the air on their own, observing every corner of the area. These eyeballs were wrapped in black flames, and each of them contained a huge amount of energy. When Bop appeared, he was immediately located by a nearby eyeball. I don't want to waste any more time on you. I've thought it through. Since I want to recruit an excellent student, like you, it's only right to pay some price. Mr. Teacher had sacrificed his eyes for this. He let the nearest eyeball spontaneously combust. This was a tactic that burned one's life force as the price, allowing one to erupt with power and speed several times greater than usual. Furthermore, the eyeball itself also possessed the ability to automatically locate the enemy, rapidly attacking Bop. Pop's brain came to a conclusion at this moment. There was no time to return to the void. The void meat bubble in his hand only had a 37% chance of neutralizing such an eyeball attack. The threat of this eyeball was greater than any of the previous attacks. Do you think you can block it? The void meat bubble was shot out from his fingertips, accurately capturing the burning eyeball. Fortunately, the eyeball was completely sucked into the meat bubble. Before the meat bubble was completely burned and the terrifying black flames erupted outwards, Bop created a small spatial tunnel and teleported the entire meat bubble out of the library. A terrifying explosion erupted outside the library. However, only the closest eyeball was blocked by Pop. In order to end the battle as soon as possible, Mr. Teacher had spent a lot of effort. There were also 4 eyeballs that were not far away, and they were also in a burning state. Due to the defensive action just now, he had wasted some time. These 4 eyeballs were all close, and there was no room to dodge at all. Is this the difference between me and the Supreme? Bop gritted his teeth and prepared to use a trump card. Break the cauldrons and sink the boats to break the situation. Once this move was used, it would allow him to escape and get out of danger. However, he would also fall into the Sumeru state and would be unable to participate in the battle. He might even drift in the broken dimensions for a long time. Mr. Teacher, who was no longer restricted by Bop, would also inevitably attack Han Dong and Eugenus. I'm sorry, I can only stall for so long. In fact, the battle had been going on for a whole hour. Bop, who had just become a king, was able to stall the middle-level incarnation of the Supreme to such an extent. He even needed the other party to sacrifice an important organ to deal with him. This was already quite impressive, and it could even become a legend in the hybrid demon circle. Buzz, this singularity crystal in his chest lit up, and some kind of super large-scale cosmic storm was about to appear and sweep through the current area. Not only would it sweep Bop away, but this corpse storage room would also be completely stripped away. Mr. Teacher also noticed something strange and instinctively took a step back, just as the cosmic storm was about to form. A long yellow robe suddenly fell on Bop's body. Buzz! The uncontrollable soul hypnosis calmed down the impatient soul in Bop's body. The luster of the singularity crystal was also suppressed and returned to normal. The cosmic storm that could not form naturally could not engulf the eyeball attack. Danger had arrived. The 4 eyeballs, burning with black flames, collided from different angles, and Bop did not make any defensive moves. Boom! The black flames exploded here in an explosive manner, and several holes were burned in the special rock layer of the library. Mr. Teacher also had an extremely displeased expression on his face. This guy, he can't have realized that he has already lost. He doesn't want to fall into my hands. So he deliberately removed all of his defensive means and let himself be completely burned in the black flames? What a waste of resources. He admired Bop very much and really wanted to take Bop as his student. Of course, his real purpose was to cultivate Bop into a more perfect space incarnation. Moreover, such an incarnation that had reached the king level would allow him to have a lot of basic information and advantages in the upcoming invasion of S01. Thinking of this, Mr. Teacher quickly raised his arm and sucked the black flames back into his body as much as possible to preserve Bop's body, as much as possible. According to Black Tower's technology, he might be able to save Bop's body. At the same time, he also recalled the remaining 4 eyeballs back into his body. But an accident happened. Only 3 eyeballs were recalled, and one of them suddenly lost its senses during the flight. Well, when the eyeball flew over the explosion area, why did it suddenly lose its senses? He could only speed up the absorption of the black flames in the explosion area. When the dust settled and the black flames dissipated, a scene that Mr. Teacher could not believe was displayed in front of him. Bop, who was wrapped in a yellow robe, stood in the center of the explosion and was completely unharmed. At the same time, there was a mysterious, hunchbacked existence wearing a loose yellow robe standing beside Bop. Its skinny fingers were pinching the eyeball of black flames. A soul voice sounded in Mr. Teacher's mind. This kind of black flame can burn the truth and cause great damage to the body and soul. It can also be carried and transferred through your organs and body. What a great ability. I can set this ability up in my novel. As soon as the voice finished speaking, the eyeball burning with black flames had been put into the sleeve of the robe and kept as a theme. This is a king-level hybrid demon. Realizing this, Mr. Teacher decisively gave up all the benefits in front of him. He spread his wings and retreated at full speed. However, a very strange feeling came from within his body. Escape was indeed happening. Mr. Teacher could clearly feel that he was accelerating with the help of his wings. He was constantly moving away from the underground area where the mysterious yellow robe was located. However, the feedback from his consciousness was quite strange. He felt that he was just walking in the same place. What the hell is going on? I should have escaped, right? Why can I still smell the scent of the previous battle area? Why can I still feel the aura of the hybrid demons? When Mr. Teacher checked himself, his face immediately became ferocious. His soul was no longer in his body at some point. The thing that escaped in the library was just a physical body, but the connection between the body and the soul was still there. How the hell did this happen? Once the soul was destroyed, the body would also die. About 10 minutes passed. Mr. Teacher followed the original path of escape and returned to the corpse disposal room. Indeed, his soul had always stayed there and had never moved half a step. At the same time, a voice came from the yellow robe again. Are you finally back? Invaders. Next, let's talk about your invasion plan. Chapter 1894. Due to the wrapping effect of the yellow robe, Bop did not suffer any damage from the terrifying explosion of black flames. He carefully felt the material of the yellow robe on the surface of his body. It had the capacity to contain endless souls, and it also had the firmness of ancient wrinkled skin. The soundproofing effect it brought could block out all unconventional substances. It could even isolate the concept of matter. At the same time, Bop widened his eyes and stared at the king in the yellow robe beside him. It felt different. This superior existence in the yellow robe did not have the casual, kind, and ethereal personality characteristics of the one on the plant planet, nor did he have the strict, dangerous, and uncomfortable feeling of the current director of the library. It was both familiar and unfamiliar, but also abnormally powerful. The seemingly twisted pit of flesh and blood in the hood was actually like a soul kingdom. There were lakes, mountains, tall buildings, and castles. Overall, it was like Soul Kingdom du Carcosa was imprinted on his face. Bop could not even read any emotions, whether it was the expression, the fluctuation of the yellow robe, or the rhythm of the soul. Everything was close to nothing. However, there was an unprecedented sense of strength hidden in the nothingness. It surpassed the most intuitive and dangerous strength of the curator, and it also surpassed the most mysterious strength of the yellow robe, reaching a new height. It even made Bop feel that the yellow robe in front of him could even stand at the same height as his teacher. Whoosh! Suddenly, a meteor streaked across Bop's mind, connecting all the known information. The scene in front of him made Bop think through everything. He figured out teacher Yu's true purpose. Could it be that the final goal of all of this is this? To let the king and the yellow robe merge into one. This matter is quite significant. This layout has been in place since ancient times. What we're doing now is just the final net of the layout. To find the lead of the Book of the Dead Spirit, we accidentally encountered a rampager during the search for the remnant pages. Using such an encounter, we were allowed to attend the meeting at the last minute. First, we used the topic of the rampager to win votes so that the cooperation with the Black Tower could proceed smoothly. Second, we used an excuse to let the yellow robe join our search team. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps it was Nicholas's yellow seal and the amplification of his soul by the yellow robe that changed the randomness of the black hole's teleportation, allowing him to arrive at an area close to the great library of Sereno. This allowed Yellow Robe and Curator to reunite after countless eras. After many iterations, the Curator who had been baptized by books. It was no longer as evil as it was in the past. Although it was the root of evil, its nature had changed. Perhaps in ancient times, the Yellow Robe King's bad habits had already been noticed by his teacher. Whether it was the soul splitting of the good and evil faces, or the imprisonment of the distant reveler in the library in the name of the curator. On the surface, it might have been done by the Yellow Robe King, but behind the scenes, it might have been his teacher's suggestion or help. Teacher, is this your plan? Knowing all of this, Bop was filled with deep respect for Teacher Yu. At the same time, he calmed down and paid serious attention to this new king in yellow robes. He knew very well that the battle that was about to take place would exceed his current knowledge. It would be of great help to him, who had just become a king. How'd he do it? I didn't catch any casting movements at all. He actually made a middle-level king's body and soul inadvertently separate. Even a main body didn't realize it at the first moment. Yes, at the first moment, when Yellow Robe descended, he carried out a kind of conceptual level intervention. Through the influence and implantation of a certain concept, he cut off the consciousness connection between the other party's body and soul. When the order to escape was issued, only the body took this action. He didn't notice that his soul didn't receive the order at all. Naturally, the soul separation happened. It's too terrifying. Perspective change. When Mr. Teacher's second incarnation returned, he also deeply realized what kind of terrifying existence this yellow robe was. He also knew very well that his second incarnation would most likely not be able to survive. In his heart, he had already prepared for the worst. However, even at this moment, Mr. Teacher's thirst for knowledge was still causing trouble. When the body received the motionless soul, Mr. Teacher said softly, This is the first time I've seen such a powerful soul power. May I ask who you are? Have I ever allowed you to ask me a question in return? A wave of pressure on the soul level directly made Mr. Teacher's whole body tremble. This kind of pressure even made the main body, who was far away and imprisoned in the depths of BC, feel it through the connection between the incarnation and the main body. Tell me about your invasion plan. These words turned into the most ancient soul symbol and directly imprinted on the surface of Black Sky Demon's soul. It couldn't be disobeyed. It couldn't be resisted. The secret hidden in the deepest part of Black Sky Demon's soul was about to rush out of its cage under the urging of the symbol. So strong, as expected of S01. We have to reconsider our infiltration on your side. Our follow-up actions will have to be more careful. See you next time, Hybrid Demon. Black Sky Demon suddenly wrapped his body with his wings. The sharp claws on his left and right arms dug into his chest. A roar from the depths of his soul. His arms exerted force and completely tore Black Sky Demon's body apart. This body, which was taken from the king of Subsuper World, was completely broken at this moment. The ultimate black flame that was carried by the body, or rather, sealed inside, completely erupted at this moment. Its power was tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of times stronger than any previous release. It was enough to burn the entire library to ashes. Between each eruption of black flames, there seemed to be a devil's head surging. Just as the outermost layer of black flames was about to swallow Yellow Robe, whoosh, a yellow silk cloth overflowed from his body. Before the black flames could continue to spread, it completely enveloped them and compressed them inwardly. It was wrapped into a yellow package. However, through the yellow silk, one could still see the wildly surging black flames inside, which could break out at any time. Hey, Pop, do me a favor. Teleport this thing to somewhere far away. Oh, okay. Although Pop was stunned, he immediately aimed his palm at the yellow package in response to Yellow Robe's request. Buzz! Even the nearby space was peeled away, and the danger was eliminated. Well done. Next, clear the danger in other areas. Black Tower Control Headquarters, B, C, 4th level. It was impossible to reach this depth with the help of the main axis that ran through the headquarters. Only with the permission and special key of the highest authority holder, Director Charles, could one use the director's authority to reach this level. Most of the members of the committee were also sealed here. Among them, the miniature world used to seal Mr. Teacher. In the depths of a sealed university, the sound of tearing, destruction, and explosions constantly came from the principal's office. Students and teachers passing by would all be involved in it. After about an entire day, the commotion slowly subsided. The completely destroyed office was gradually being restored. Mr. Teacher was sitting in front of the principal's seat, thinking carefully. I didn't expect that before the full infiltration plan officially began, I would have already lost 2 important avatars. A library like this, with such a strong person overseeing it, is reasonable. But this strength is a bit exaggerated. We are a little too hasty here, and we do need more comprehensive preparations. When all the resources are ready, when the full infiltration is fully implemented, we will carry out a comprehensive encirclement of the entire S01 world. Chapter 1895. Mr. Teacher's avatar is dead. Because it existed in the soul, the team established by the owner with glasses connected. The news of Black Sky Demon's death instantly spread among the team. Bullet Granny suddenly froze, revealing a surprised expression of disbelief. She smelled an extremely dangerous sense of death and couldn't care less about Eugenius, who was suppressed by her. Although she suppressed him, she was very clear about one thing. If she wanted to completely kill Eugenius, this almost perfect monster, it would probably take a whole day or even more to clear out the black mountain of flesh in his body, as well as the preliminary small country that had already taken shape. Only then could she completely kill him. She stopped chasing. She immediately compressed the swollen, beehive-like flesh on the surface of a unique bullet and shot it out of the library as far as possible. With the help of the speed of the largest bullet, she could quickly escape from here. Boom! An armor-piercing bullet carrying Granny's body was shot out at a speed that could pierce through space. Who knew that before the bullet was shot out of the basement? Pah! It was easily pinched by a finger that seemed to be covered with ancient rock formations. Before Granny could make any struggling movements, the bullet was thrown into her sleeve. Such an interesting and special individual of Rampager, Yellow Robe seemed to be a good writing material. Eugenius also rushed over immediately. When he saw the king in a yellow robe with a completely different aura, he was stunned for a moment. His brain, which was not inferior to that of the ancients, quickly understood what was going on and quickly knelt on the ground in the most pious posture. Just as Eugenius was about to say something, a void palm had already landed on his shoulder, and a voice went straight to his mind. Don't speak. If you say something wrong, it will lead to unpredictable consequences. I can't judge whether the current king in the yellow robe is in a stable state or whether he completed the fusion willingly. Any relevant words may anger him, so don't speak nonsense at this time. It's better to leave these words to Han Dong, the yellow messenger. I'm a little excited. While the two were talking in their minds, the king in the yellow robe had already gone to the last battle area. Creak! When the milky white tentacles penetrated the sealed room and slowly opened the door of the deepest secret room, Han Dong was already standing at the door in advance, one hand on the shoulder of the owner with glasses. Congratulations to the king in yellow, curator. Let me introduce you. This is a special Rampager from BC. After a long negotiation, he is willing to completely cut off his connection with that side and work for us. I'm more than willing to assist you in managing the library or the Yellow Robe King in managing the souls of Carcosa. Han Dong's introduction ended. A white tentacle had already attached itself to Mr. Rotters, and at the same time, split into two. One of them touched the owner's soul. A single strand that touched her soul, whoosh. The tentacles burrowed into the spines of the siblings and swam up until they occupied the entire spine. Through this kind of occupation, all the soul movements were sealed. Creak, 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 some kind of test and erosion were going on simultaneously. It was not just a test of the loyalty of the Rampagers. It was also carrying out the purest and most profound form of soul pollution. This kind of pollution wouldn't cause the body to degenerate, and the appearance wouldn't change at all. The only thing that would change was the soul. While completing the hybrid demon transformation, it would not affect his ability in any way. A very rare twin soul bodies, and they're bound together through a kind of bond that transcends the nature of the soul. If he stays by my side, it will save me a lot of trouble. Nicholas, you've recruited quite a talent for me. As an emissary, this is what I should do. The reason they were able to track us was all because of this guy's soul senses. Considering that he could be of use to you, I tried speech therapy. This group of Rampagers isn't as united as I thought. They are just trapped under the same roof, and each of them has an independent personality. If I can find an entry point and give them enough pressure and threats, I might be able to rope them in. Of course, this kind of rope, it might not be that meaningful. What the higher-ups want is definitely not a simple solution, but an exciting, large-scale, and dangerous game that they haven't seen in a long time, right? Looks like you're quite knowledgeable. I've already let the library sink into the depth of the dimension. With their current technology, they won't be able to locate the library's location. I'll try my best not to alert them and scare them away. Personally, I'm still looking forward to the top existence between them. Let's cut the crap. You still have 69 days of borrowing time left. Make good use of it. If you can finish reading enough books in the limited time, you'll also get a chance to be alone with me as my thank you gift. The word thank you gift was used here. It indirectly expressed the yellow-robed king's attitude towards the matter of fusion. He was obviously willing, even satisfied, to express his gratitude. This also made Han Dong and the others breathe a sigh of relief. After all, the curator was full of hatred for the yellow-robed king. Although it was not clear what happened when the two met and how they eliminated the estrangement and resentment. Since the fusion was completed and they no longer rejected each other, it was the best result. When Han Dong returned to the library he set up for himself, he sighed. He even said that if the yellow-robed king didn't like this pair of siblings, he would give them to me. If I took them to the prison world, they would definitely become very good soul monitors and assess the souls of every prisoner. It seems that I have to find someone else. Moreover, the curator and the yellow-robed king didn't fight. If they really fought and left the library unattended, perhaps I could take the entire library for myself and move it to my prison. Even if I can't move it, it's still possible to get all the good vetting talents in the House of Representatives. Now, with this overly friendly ending, no benefits will fall on me. Forget it. Being able to study here is an unexpected gain in itself. I'm just missing the last piece of the mythical puzzle, and then I can start a fight for the throne. When he stepped back into the library, all the emotions, helplessness, and all kinds of distracting thoughts disappeared. Even if the faceless myth had reached 100%, he was still fully immersed in reading. He finished reading all the storybooks 20 days in advance. At this time, a passage hidden at the back of the bookshelf appeared on its own and led directly to the curator's room. Only the yellow-robed king was sitting there alone, with all kinds of documents piled up on the table. I'm faster than Bop. Of course, Bop has just become a king. In addition to reading, he also needs to consolidate the initial king's territory. Hurry up and come over. I have something to tell you. Senior, please go ahead. The yellow-robed king took out a special seal from his desk and gently pushed it towards Han Dong. The seal was a combination of a yellow-robed seal and the seal of the library. Since I've completed the final fusion, the Great Sereno Library is no longer of much use to me. Moreover, the overall management of the library is more time-consuming and laborious, and it has to be maintained every year. When I return to my original world, I need to clean up the mess left behind over the years, as well as fill in the gaps in the world left behind by this guy's negligence. I even need to rebuild the Soul Kingdom, Carcosa. I won't have time to take care of the library. As the yellow-robed emissary, are you willing to share this burden with me? It's my pleasure. Suddenly, the conversation between the two changed from voice to soul communication. Since the library is in your hands, you can do whatever you want with it. I only have one request. When you've completed the collection of the Book of the Dead, remember to leave part of the ownership of this book to the library. Of course, you can keep the book as it is, and when you don't need it, just keep it in the library and leave a name. Let the outside world know that the Book of the Dead is one of the books in the Great Sereno Library. Of course. Chapter 1896. Han Dong was completely satisfied with such an unexpected gain. This was the #1 library in the hybrid demon world for many years. At the same time, it was accompanied by a group of inspectors and management teams personally trained by the Yellow Robe in ancient times. Han Dong didn't intend to stay in the curator's room any longer. He planned to use the remaining time to visit the various areas of the library. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, the curator's room was suddenly filled with a thick white soul mist. Snap! A milky white tentacle grew out of nowhere and fell behind Han Dong with a snap, quickly building a white jade chair. Sit down, other than helping me take over the library. Since you're the only envoy I chose during the separation period, we have to have a good chat. After all, I am more inclined to act alone, and I don't like to arrange envoys around me. In order not to affect my current state, I have abandoned most of the memories during the separation period. Therefore, we need to get to know each other again. You don't have to worry. Since I have chosen you, I will not take back this title. The only one? Han Dong thought that the Yellow Robe King would visit human cities every day and come into contact with all kinds of people. He would also recruit some talented humans as envoys. He didn't expect that he was the only one. The individual separated by me has an extreme personality. The main body representing the Yellow Robe King is not good at management. He only knows how to wander around human cities every day to satisfy his creative desires. Because he doesn't have any evil intentions, Even if he encounters some troublesome things, he won't get angry, let alone solve them through slaughter, soul extraction, or other methods. He himself also dislikes all kinds of trouble, but he accepted you as an envoy. Now it seems that it does make sense. While they were talking, the white jade chair was also testing some information about Han Dong. Not only the soul, but also something deeper. This made Han Dong feel itchy all over. He was stuffed with something from the inside out, and some substance was constantly wriggling in his body. Han Dong also understood that this was not a chat at all. It was that the Yellow Robe King wanted to test his envoy in depth. Han Dong gritted his teeth and asked a question that he was very curious but also risky. Senior Yellow Robe, did you choose to divide in ancient times to correct your character or essence? Han Dong didn't feel any anger or danger when he asked this question carefully. The Yellow-Robed King, who was sitting on the curator's seat, did not have any emotional changes or displeasure because of this question. Even the lake of Hallie on his face did not ripple at all. That's right, I have a certain flaw. At that time, this flaw brought me extremely serious obstacles and troubles. It made it difficult for me to get along with other existences of the same level as me, and it was very difficult for me to blend into their circles. Of course, that wasn't the main point. Even I was slowly realizing the existence of this flaw. I realized that there were some things that I couldn't do well because of this flaw, and I couldn't reach a higher level. Thus, I accepted an early proposal from the void. Perform a perfect division of the soul, consume hundreds of millions of years of spiritual essence, and combine it with my attainments in the soul level to make the two parts of the division complete a complete body, and let them each start a completely different life. Among them, the part that symbolizes good has an extremely lazy personality, doesn't like to manage things, and is very afraid of getting into trouble. He pretends to be the lowest existence and goes to different areas in different star fields. He enjoys entertainment and wantonly vents his creative desires. After all, good is the center. No matter how much he vents, it will not threaten all kinds of life and the balance of the world. As for the part that symbolizes evil, he wants to do practical things and is good at management. However, his management is not conducive to the development of the Soul Kingdom at all, and it even fell into a crisis at one point. Not long after the separation, he became enemies with many old kings, and later led to the outbreak of small and medium-sized land deed wars in the areas under his jurisdiction. As the relationship continued to deteriorate and escalate, large-scale king-level wars also completely broke out. The evil part was jointly suppressed by many old kings. In the end, he relied on the help and persuasion of the Void to sign a contract and cede most of the land deeds, barely saving himself. In order to not hand over this Sereno Grand Library, he deliberately threw the entire library into the broken dimension by an explosion at the end of the war. It was also with this opportunity that the evil part was tricked into the library. Nominally, he was put in the position of the curator to ensure the stability of the library. In fact, he was imprisoned in it, drifting endlessly in the broken dimension. Through time and books, he was able to eliminate and reshape the evil thoughts in his body. I see. Congratulations, Senior. After endless separation, you finally achieved the desired effect. Desired? It can't be said to have achieved the best expected effect, but it's barely good. The evil part has completely changed and sublimated. Now I will no longer be troubled by impatience and evil thoughts, and my overall strength has improved a lot. However, the good part did not achieve the desired effect. I didn't expect that after letting him play for countless eras, he is still addicted to the creation of various novels. It's just that this addiction is slightly better than before. Senior, do you plan to return directly to the original world? Or, no hurry. Although there are a lot of messes to clean up, I can take it slowly. I have plenty of time. The fusion of the split body has reached the basic requirements, and I owe the Void a favor. I can pay it back in advance. I don't want to be led by the nose by that guy. I'll go back after I finish collecting the remnant pages for you. Thank you, Senior. Han Dong took the curator's seal, bowed, and left the curator's room. In the remaining time, Han Dong began to familiarize himself with the library. At the same time, he brought the parameters of the library, as well as the design drawings, to the engineers in his brain. He asked them to think about how to place such a magnificent library. After Han Dong left, the white jade chair that he had sat on had been dyed with various colors, mainly gray. With the return of the yellow-robed king, the chair turned into a tentacle and was sucked into his mouth. He carefully chewed the various elements contained in the tentacle. It's really messy, more messy than any other hybrid demon I have ever seen. This is very in line with the characteristics of the gray guy. However, the faceless gray matter that was developed by this guy is obviously different. What a pity. If I can gather it in advance, I will inevitably take this little guy for myself and will not let him come into contact with other guys at all. The good part clearly noticed the potential of this guy and even recruited him as an emissary, but because of the trouble, I don't care about it. Otherwise, I can have a pretty good successor. The level that this guy can eventually reach may be higher than the world line that we discussed at the beginning. Chapter 1897. After a series of changes, the yellow-robed king's mind had become much more meticulous. At the same time, he was also very clear that all of this was inseparable from the void. Naturally, he would not be stingy. In addition to taking care of Han Dong, the emissary, he would naturally give Bop a certain amount of help and secretly assist him in stabilizing the newly established king's territory. However, just as the yellow-robed king spied on Bop's state, the yellow robe on his body fluttered slightly. As expected of the current generation's prime, after experiencing such a life-and-death battle, he can actually gain so much. It seems that he has also gained a kind of enlightenment that surpasses the essence of the hybrid demons. In that case, it's better for you to grow on your own. I won't interfere. Bop himself had also gained valuable insights from the battle between life and death with Mr. Teacher. Moreover, a coincidental and bizarre change was happening in Bop's self-universe. The reason why he had not completed the reading task for so long was precisely because of this. The preaching seed, released by Mr. Teacher, drifted in the universe and could not take root. After the war, when Bop was monitoring himself, he accidentally found that this preaching seed that existed in the form of consciousness still existed. It even tried to invade Bop's main body of consciousness. He tried to use the Starlight brain to analyze it. He intended to decipher the secret of Mr. Teacher's preaching and prepare for the subsequent war in advance. He even intended to make all the hybrid demons immune to the influence of preaching in advance. First, he used the star particles to collide with the seed to eliminate the hidden risks within and cut off the connection between the seed and Mr. Teacher. However, in the process of such collision, Bop gradually deciphered, analyzed, and comprehended the essence of preaching. He even slowly turned such preaching into his own thing. The yellow-robed king no longer disturbed him and turned his gaze to the other side. By the way, there's also a Shugas. I didn't expect that after so many years, such a slave race could also be chosen as the prime and even be given the demonic book. It seems that the overall situation has changed a lot. I don't know if I can adapt in a short time when I go back this time. Eugene's situation was slightly different. He, who was arranged to be in the underground area, was mainly responsible for supervising and dealing with the riders imprisoned here and their corpses. Unlike Han Dong and the others, who had books to read, there was naturally no possibility of going to the curator's room. But Eugene himself did not care. He was already quite satisfied to be able to collect enough ancient corpses in advance. Moreover, he had also collected a lot of precious ancient corpses, which could be used as important cultivation ingredients in the future. Unlike other demonic books, the core of the corpse-eating cult's ritual was corpse-eating. Currently, there was a second mouth on the surface of Eugenist's left cheek that was emitting the air of the devilish codex. He was in a special state of training where the devilish codex was contained in his body. The room they were in was already full of teeth marks. Eugenist did not look good. He seemed to be at a difficult point and could not make a breakthrough. All kinds of stinky bodily fluids kept flowing out, and the individual became more and more agitated. Suddenly, a warm, soft object flowed into his body, suppressing his agitation and smoothing out his path, allowing Eugenius to cross the threshold of training before him in a rather smooth way. When he opened his eyes, he saw the yellow-robed king standing in front of him. Many white, jade tentacles were touching his body. "Lord Yellowrobe, thank you for your gift." Eugenius knew very well that everything just now was thanks to the yellow-robed king's help. He immediately pressed his whole body to the ground and knelt down devoutly. You are very different from the Shugas, I know. Most of the modification flaws have been patched up. Your intelligence development is comparable to that of the ancients, and even higher than their average level. Moreover, your affinity with the corpse-eating cult's ritual is ridiculously high. You also have the arm of the Ghoul King mixed in your body. Your experience is also quite rich. You can indeed be called a perfect life. No wonder you can become an origin substance. After receiving such a high evaluation from the yellow-robed king, the eyes all over Eugenius' body blinked, and he was incomparably happy. By the way, your ranking in this batch of origin substances should be very high, right? Second or third. First place should be that little fellow in the void above, right? I'm ranked 5th in this batch of origin substances. Pop is ranked 2nd. You're only 5th? The little fellow above isn't even 1st. Is the quality of your batch so high? Who's ahead of you? Ranked 4th is Miss Sally, the black goat with the purest bloodline in recent years. The person in 3rd place was also the person who had defeated me in the game of origin, Aslan from the northern continent. As for Origin, who was able to surpass Bop and take 1st place, he was a lunatic who was ridiculously strong. He comes from the center of the chaos and is grim from the abyss. No wonder you can suppress the void. You're actually a young man from the chaos. Your batch is really interesting. Develop well. I'm very optimistic about you. By the way, which old king does your Shugas clan currently belong to? I've already fought for the freedom of leaving the South Pole for my clan, and I don't have any affiliation for the time being. However, Teacher You from the Void takes good care of me and my clan. Oh. After breaking away from the control of the ancients and being recognized, you actually don't have an old king's affiliation? That's good. I'm just about to return to my original world and regain the upper authority. You can come under my command and work for me. Hearing this, Eugenius' eyes suddenly widened. The opportunity that he had been pursuing suddenly appeared in front of him without warning, causing him to be at a loss for a moment. It was precisely because there was no protection without the support of the old king behind him. Many times he had to swallow his anger, and many resources had to be fought for by himself. In addition to considering himself, he also had to consider the foundation of the entire group. Once he could return to the upper position, his burden would be greatly reduced, and the development of the entire Shugas clan would be on the right track, and they could even grow stronger in a short period of time. But, just as Eugenius instinctively wanted to agree, he was suppressed by another reason. Sir Yellow Robe, we Shugas are very eager to receive the protection of the old king and have a place to belong. But there's one thing I can't ignore. Nicholas is your emissary. To tell you the truth, although I'm on the same team as him, we're enemies. However, the relationship between us is hostile. Sooner or later, I will defeat him head-on. Moreover, I received instructions from the Void when I left the South Pole. Teacher, you has packed the black mountain of flesh and put it into my body. I'm a master of Shugas. In the future, I'll become a king and create a king-level domain for my clan. We, who mainly rely on physical transformation, are also incompatible with Sir Yellow Robe's sole attribute. If we follow you, it may add a lot of trouble. Very emotional, your acknowledgement. By the time Eugenius finished speaking, the Yellow Robe had already disappeared. However, Eugenius didn't regret the decision he had made. Instead, his eyes all over his body were filled with determination. Chapter 1898. After a 20-day visit to the library, Handong had basically explored the place. Although the appearance of the library would not change, It was like a living ancient castle covered with dark red wrinkled skin. However, the internal space had been modularized. For example, a cube would be evenly divided into 9 small squares. The position of each small square would change, but the overall shape would not change. It was the same for the library. The internal space was modularized. The internal structure of the library could be changed through the core control room. Of course, it was mainly to change the passage, floor, and location of each library. Some important areas, such as the review area where the House of Representatives and the Senate were located, would not change. The controllability is extremely high, and the overall performance of the library is not that of a plant planet. It can be suspended in the deep space of the prison world and rotate at a certain frequency. Only prisoners and prison guards with excellent performance and outstanding contributions to the prison can get the opportunity to read in the library. Moreover, they have all passed the review of the House of Representatives. If there is a gifted person like Eugene, he can stay in the library and work forever. This arrangement may be good. These days, Han Dong would often laugh strangely whenever he thought of the library being his. There were even several times when he woke up laughing in his sleep. Several times, it almost caused the laughter to spread and bring doomsday into the library. Today, Han Dong finished chatting with the last batch of high-level members of the Senate. They were also very happy to accept the new curator who was about to take office. Even if Han Dong was only a mythical body. But this group of professional testing teams was very clear about Han Dong's potential. Just the head that was constantly emitting gray fog was very impressive. Just as Han Dong stepped out of the Senate, a yellow silk cloth gently fell on his shoulder. A withered palm slowly stretched out from the gap between the silk cloth and his shoulder. Your adaptability is really good. You have almost familiarized yourself with the library in such a short time. Today is the deadline for your borrowing time. According to the regulations, you have to pay the corresponding fee. This fee will be deducted from your salary as the curator. Thank you, senior. Don't talk nonsense. Although I have endless time, I still want to return to the original world as soon as possible and meet with my old friends. Let's hurry up and find the remaining undead pages. Okay, but Han Dong had a problem. Although the library could move between dimensions, it was equipped with a driving force and self-protection system. However, since it was such a large building that mainly focused on internal management, in order to ensure stability, the overall movement speed was not high. If you don't mind, Yellow Robe King, please take my planet of plants. This planet was originally made to travel quickly between dimensions, so its speed and stability were one level higher. If he were to use the library as a carrier, it would be troublesome if he were to encounter a singularity storm or a large-scale enemy attack in interdimensional space, causing damage to the library. I suggest that we leave the library in the depths and return to our original world with the library after we've collected all the remaining pages. From the moment I gave you the seal, you were the curator. As for the arrangement of the library, it's up to you to decide. You don't need my permission. Also, I've been to the planet of plants you mentioned. Whose masterpiece is this planet? I've never seen any biotechnology that's fused into it. It's the research results of a fugitive, and now it's in my hands. Seeing that the Yellow Robe King was interested, Han Dong briefly explained the life story of Professor Morgan. Of course, he did not mention that he had cooperated with him in private and had taken the planet for himself through acting. A lunatic who likes to experiment on living things. He offended many old kings and even defeated M.O., who had the throne alone. He was the one who cut off the Ghoul King arm in Eugenus' body, right? What a good talent. It's a pity. Otherwise, he could have been my chief researcher. Okay, call your friends. Let's go. The planet bordering the back of the library quickly floated up. The moment he returned to the surface dimension, Han Dong's soul reaction immediately recovered, and he accurately located the location of the other 3 remaining pages. During the voyage, the Yellow Robe King said that he only needed to unconsciously unfold his soul domain to ensure that he would not be disturbed during the flight. Han Dong and the others did not need to take shifts to guard. They could continue to improve themselves during the voyage. In fact, the yellow-robed king, who had not merged before, could also do it. He was just lazy and did not want to be distracted. Han Dong naturally did not stand on ceremony and continued to practice the true Book of Bones. Bop and Eugenius also began their own practice. The yellow-robed king came alone to the room where he created during the separation period. It was also here that he completed the fusion before. Anyway, this kind of unconscious domain unfolding basically had no effect on him. In his spare time, he took out the novel booklet that only completed the character design, outline, and beginning during the separation period. Although the evil and most of the defects in his body had disappeared. But his love for creation was still reserved. During the writing process, he could often peek at the smiling face under the yellow robe. Anyway, I have nothing to do. Writing something like this can pass the time. Moreover, this novel is based on the world I live in. It's quite interesting to write it. The protagonist will follow the original setting. After all, this is the only emissary under my command. The sense of immersion may be stronger. Half a year passed. The Black Tower Control Headquarters, BBC, significantly reduced their search for the broken dimension. It was not that they had given up on the transfer of strongholds, but that the currently collected information was enough. The next step was to officially start the transfer project. During the search, they had accidentally obtained a remnant page. It greatly improved their efficiency in seizing the final authority. Today, they finally penetrated to the 4th level and successfully unlocked the miniature world where one of the committee members was. With the closure of New York City interspersed with various technologies, the world used to bind this person. A middle-aged man with deep eye sockets, a crew cut, and a suit walked out with a briefcase. The square-headed Deep House was here to receive him. Mr. Goodman, I'm very happy to see you in advance. The lounge has been prepared for you. Please come with me. I was preparing to go work on Wall Street today. The world collapsed halfway. You guys are really fast. I slept well last night. I don't need a rest. Show me the remnant page that I accidentally obtained. Yes, I'm here to receive you to lead you to the lounge and officially contact the remnant page stored there. Only you can control such a strange thing. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Under the guidance of Deep House, the two walked in a brand new independent corridor. Hiss! The steam hydraulic iron door at the end of the corridor slowly opened. He thought that the lounge was behind him. Who knew? It was still a bottomless passage. Passage, iron door, passage, iron door, back and forth cycle. This achieved an absolute isolation effect. The so-called lounge was built in a very deep area. The potential danger of the remnant page has caused a total of 133 people, including the original controller, to be irreversible brain effects. We must seal it in a very deep area to prevent such effects from spreading. I hope Mr. Goodman can understand. It's okay, as long as we can get there before noon. Nap is a very important thing for me. Chapter 1899. In half a year's time, Han Dong had done enough practical work. Under the command of the yellow-robed main body, the journey was unimpeded. In other words, the number of rampagers wandering between the broken dimensions was significantly reduced. In the process of searching for the remaining remnant pages, they did not encounter any rampagers. The collection mission was completed. Buzz. In a certain broken crack in the S-01 world, the Sereno Grand Library was dragged by a plant planet and returned to its original world. At the same time, there was a soul aura that was beyond understanding spreading in the world. It was like a drop of thick, pure white turbid liquid dripping into a quiet lake. In a short time, this white color was brought to every corner of the lake. Whether it was active in the major cities, adventuring in the forbidden zones, or living in the depths of the universe, all of them had a similar feeling at this moment. Their souls would be drawn. Their vision seemed to see their clothes turn yellow. Their thoughts gave birth to a name together, but they did not dare to say it out loud. They could only call it the Yellow-Robed King. There were also bursts of hymns among the stars, as if announcing the return of the Yellow-Robed King. These guys, it seems that they are quite welcoming of me. Standing on the surface of the plant planet, the yellow-robed king silently watched the long-lost world wind sword. He missed his hometown very much. At the same time, a void door was torn open not far from the surface of the planet. Teacher Yu, who was dressed as a bartender, walked out and gave a very rare hug. In ancient times, they would not use this kind of hug in the human form. Instead, they would entangle all kinds of tentacles or insert them together to give a true interactive hug. The tentacles could convey the emotions in their hearts most intuitively. Not bad, right? Well, evil has basically been eliminated, but it's still quite playful. It's good to have some interests and hobbies. My disciple, how do you feel? Better than the students of the void I've seen before. Maybe in another 100 years, he'll be able to squeeze you out. Such a high evaluation? It seems that Bop's performance in the Broken Dimensions is quite good. I even saw some strange forks in his destiny line. It seems that there are unexpected opportunities. Also, what about the two little guys? That Shugas has already been possessed by you. How dare he refuse my invitation? If I hadn't just completed the fusion and was in a good mood, I'm afraid this Shugas would have been gone. Eugene is the 5th prime substance that has been acknowledged by many of our former kings. He has his own thoughts, and you also know that his attributes are completely different from yours. If you lack people here, I can recommend a group of races with soul talent to you. This group of Shugas is no longer suitable to be slaves. Let them develop freely. In the future, we might be able to produce a king who is on equal footing with us and increase our battle prowess. There's also Nicholas. I won't comment on this. You should know better than me. However, there was a problem with the collection of the Book of Necromancy. The most important book, the Real Brain Book, was nowhere to be found. It could be concluded that this part of the remnant pages had been taken away by the so-called rampagers. This is our important property, and these guys have seriously infringed on our rights. You should already have a plan, right? When are we going to wipe them out? It's normal that 1 or 2 of the remnant pages were not taken away. However, it just so happens that the brain was taken away, which may make things more troublesome. If you don't alert the enemy too much during this trip, they will still choose to use the Shattered Dimension as a temporary stronghold. When the time comes, I will lead the advancement of this game. As for you, Yellow-Robed King, you don't have to spend time on this matter. Just rebuild your soul kingdom. When the time comes, you will naturally have a chance to make a move, and there may even be times when you are forced to defend. The Yellow-Robed King was a little puzzled by this statement. Forced to defend? Could it be that these guys can still invade us here? With Nicholas's help, I successfully enslaved a rampager. They divided the 3 levels of kings into Prince Jack, Queen Queen, and King King. Although there are more than 20 kings, most of the information is encrypted. But in my opinion, they aren't a big threat. Even if you don't count the boss, we can also fully suppress them. This is just superficial information. The reason why this group of rampagers can make the Black Tower feel so distressed and even eventually ask for help and compromise naturally means that they have their own abilities. They are all chaotic existences in different worlds. Their birth is wrong, and they are completely outside the rules. It just so happens that they were gathered by the Black Tower, forming the most dangerous group. In the face of Teacher Yu's words, Yellow-Robed King was still disdainful. When it comes to chaotic, there is nothing more chaotic than the big guy sealed here, right? Teacher Yu didn't say anything else. In short, this group of guys will be very interesting. We have been silent for countless centuries. Although we had a lot of fun during the last world cataclysm, it wasn't enough. I hope that we can have a long-awaited gaming experience this time. I believe that you will be very satisfied when the time comes. That's it. I still have to bring Bop back to the void and guide his future development. All right, it gives me a headache just thinking about the mess waiting for me to clean up. Not only did Teacher Yu take Bop away, but he also took Eugenus with him. Of course, he wouldn't bring Eugenus back to the void with him. After all, Eugenus didn't have much understanding of space, and the danger of going to the void was self-evident. Eugenus would be sent to an area very suitable for cultivation, a protoplasmic world ruled by an ultimate ancestral god. Origin Flesh Nation, Aiders. The seventh protoplasmic substance, the competitive hop, also happened to be undergoing cultivation on the level of strength. When the two protoplasmic substances with special bodies collided, there might be some sparks. Before leaving, Teacher Yu still turned back to look at Yellow Robe King not far away. His head that could reflect all things in the universe seemed to reveal a gratified smile. In ancient times, the yellow-robed king who possessed powerful soul abilities but did not do anything practical, spilled evil, and even established soul markets in many places was a thing of the past. The brand-new yellow-robed king would bring a completely different soul system to World S-01. In the library, thump, thump. Intense heartbeats could be heard throughout the corridors. Han Dong, who was trying to cultivate the true heart book, had unusually good results. His left chest had completely caved in, and his beating heart was inside. Visible to the naked eye, about 80% of the heart was already covered with ancient rock layers. When it was completely transformed into a stone heart, the true demonic heart would be born from the stone. Progress is fast. Let's call it a day. Why is Bop and Eugenius, Oregon? Have they already returned to World S-01? These two fellas left without even saying goodbye. Seriously, they even said that they would leave after having a meal with them. Han Dong tidied up a little and quickly walked to the exit of the library. The moment he pushed open the door and stepped out of the library, the celestial phenomenon formed by countless souls entwined, arranged, and swimming stunned Han Dong. Not far away, he vaguely caught a glimpse of a lake that his consciousness had once been to, Lake Hallie. At this moment, whispers transmitted between souls kept echoing in his ears. Translated into English, it was, "This is Carcosa." Chapter 1900. I was too immersed in the training of the necropolis that I didn't notice the changes in the outside world. In the blink of an eye, I'm already here, the world of the yellow-robed king, Carcosa. My consciousness had spent some time between the lakes. Speaking of which, are the souls wandering around here, because Carcosa is the final destination of the hybrid demon souls, or because the yellow-robed king took them here. Just as Han Dong was mumbling to himself, a voice came from behind him. Both. A reply sounded in his ears. Before he knew it, a yellow robe had landed beside Han Dong. The yellow-robed king who had returned to his homeland had a new form. A form that weakened his defense, lowered his mysticism, and greatly increased his soul affinity. He was also known as the Soul Prince of Carcosa. The yellow robe that covered his entire body had turned into a light bandage that wrapped around his head, torso, and arms. The extra bandages floated behind his back. The light bandage revealed his skinny body. Thin white tentacles could be seen wriggling between the bandages. Only the lower half of the yellow robe remained. The long skirt trailed behind him, giving him a dignified and noble feeling. When a yellow-robed king returned to the world under his control, a horn-shaped crown was already fastened on the bandaged head. His thin and withered fingers were pointing at the souls that filled the sky. They may form clouds. They may radiate light. They may form black mist and rain. The souls of the Carcosa of the past were at least 50 times more than now. Due to the large amount of land deeds that I used as compensation and the division plan, no one managed this place for a long time. Now it has fallen to this state. Of course, it's better than I expected. At least the basic system still exists. Come with me. Even though there's nothing for you to do here, and I don't need your help, as my messenger, you should take a look around this place. Perhaps it will be of great help to your future cultivation of the Book of Necromancy. You can also take the things that I no longer need. Okay. When he heard there was something for him to pick up, his interest was piqued. On the way to Hairy Lake, Han Dong asked curiously, "Do the souls of the hybrid demons gather here after they die? Or is it drawn here by you?" If all of the hybrid demon souls would come over on their own accord, I wouldn't have ended up like this. I was forced to sign all sorts of restrictive agreements and large amounts of land deeds as compensation. Even my throne was almost overthrown. However, there was indeed a problem with my management style back then. Anyone who had seen the yellow seal, or passed by me occasionally, or dreamed of Carcosa, etc. As long as there was a direct or indirect connection to the yellow seal, their soul would be attracted to Carcosa after death. Naturally, there were also some individuals who belonged to other former kings, which led to conflicts. Furthermore, my temper wasn't small at all back then. If anyone dared to come knocking on my door and ask for a soul, I would usually ask for several times, or even dozens of times the price. Also, personally, I still have some thoughts. Although I don't like to nurture emissaries or establish a church, I personally have a great need for souls and brains. You've seen the evil part, so you should understand. A high-quality soul could make Carcosa stronger, and a high-quality brain could satisfy me. That's how things got out of hand. There were even a few old bastards who joined forces to suppress me. But now I can understand why. After all, eating other people's descendants and best students is a little despicable. When you guys barge into the library, I would have sucked your brains dry and sewed your souls together into a carpet and placed it in my office. Comfortable, it would have been comfortable. But I think once the void and the grain know what's going on, they will make a move on me. Hearing this, Han Dong recalled the scene of his head being licked and felt a lingering fear. After all these years, I've thought it through. I need to find a relatively friendly management style for Carcosa and try my best to get the souls from the outside to come to me willingly. Are you going to establish a church? Han Dong hit the nail on the head. After much thought, this is the only way. Although it's a little annoying, it's something I have to do. After establishing the Yellow Seal Church, I'll give the believers some gifts or guidance on their souls. When they die, they will willingly leave their souls behind in Carcosa. As long as the church is big enough, the number of souls gathered in Carcosa will be enough. Do you need my help? Establishing a church is a slow process. I have plenty of time, so I could do it slowly. All you need to do is take care of the library and store the Book of the Dead inside. Yellow Robe seemed to know Han Dong did not have much time, so he brought him here for a stroll. In front of them was the famous Halley Lake. It was said that all the souls that were led to Carcosa were baptized by Halley Lake to wash away their obsessions and willingly stay in Carcosa. In fact, it was a kind of memory cleansing and thought injection. Once the souls were bathed in Halley Lake, they would become Carcosa's slaves. From afar, on the other side of the lake, there was an ancient city that looked both real and fake. At times, it looked like a yellow wall. Sometimes it looked like a towering, dilapidated castle. At times, it looked like a scattered village. In short, due to the king's defeat and departure, the city was already in ruins. After that, he and the king sat on a broken wooden boat and slowly paddled across Halley Lake. Occasionally, a tentacle would poke out from the fog as if it was spying on them. The lake was not that big. However, no matter how hard Han Dong paddled, he could not reach the other side. The ancient city on the other side was even more out of reach. Unknowingly, they had spent an hour on the lake. Han Dong could not help but ask, "Sir, are we going to the other side? I don't think we'll reach the other side." That's right. The other side does not exist. Halley Lake itself is boundless. What you see on the other side is just a reflection of the lake. If the other side does not exist, then what is the ancient city on the other side? What you see might not be the truth. With your eyes, you should be able to see it, right? Since the other side is a reflection, the palace that we're going to is also a reflection. The scenes of the ancient cities were nothing more than reflections in the lake. The real palace is located under Halley Lake. At this moment, the camera zoomed in. The wooden boat that Han Dong and the king were on was already deep in the endless lake. A black shadow was slowly floating up from the lake. Compared to it, the wooden boat was as small as an ant. The entire lake shook as it floated up. A large number of bubbles floated to the surface of the lake, forming more dense white fog. "It's coming, Nicholas. Get ready." As soon as the king reminded the king, a large number of white tentacles rose from the lake and dragged the wooden boat into the depths. The sound of the wooden boat being crushed could be heard. At the same time, an identical wooden boat reformed from the white fog in the harbor. Chapter 1901. Whoosh, the tide washed the shallows, and the shell conch that lived here seemed to be awakened. Something was slowly drilling out of the nut. Hiss, hiss, several slender roots stretched out and took root in the beach, pulling out the main body that lived in the shell. Splat, a slippery and elastic brain popped out. The shell conch was directly wrapped inside the brain. When it needed to rest, it would be taken out as a temporary residence. With the help of the tentacles at the front and the crab legs on the side, it moved forward on the beach. Logically speaking, this brain crab would instinctively crawl into the lake to replenish the water. However, it seemed to have smelled something different and moved towards a shoal. Rustle, rustle, rustle. It wasn't just this one. Tens of thousands of brain crabs were awakened by the rising tide and gathered in this area. There was a living body lying here, and the brain emitted an extremely tempting smell. The nearby brain crabs all grew sharp mouth parts, trying to poke into the target's skull and suck the delicacy. Ding, 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 a series of metal collisions sounded in the shallows. When the mouth parts poked at the skull, they were all broken. Looking at this living body from a certain angle, its entire body was overflowing with a gray metallic luster, indestructible. With the continuous collisions, the unconscious young man slowly woke up. He didn't know how long he had slept, but hunger overflowed his entire body. The moment he woke up, he instinctively grabbed a moving brain crab and stuffed it into his mouth. He ate nearly 20 of them in a row, including the shell conch inside, before he could barely fill his stomach. Not only did the nutrition flow throughout his body, but it also allowed an essence to flow into his brain, fully activating his groggy brain. His consciousness gradually woke up. Where am I? I remembered that I was rowing a boat with Yellow Robe in Lake Harry when I was suddenly swept into it. Is this the world under the lake? These crab-like brains should be related to Yellow Robe's second identity, distant feaster. I didn't expect it to taste so good when eaten raw. I can roughly understand why he likes brains. If that's the case, the doctor's brain should also taste amazing. When Han Dong got up, these brain crabs also realized the danger. They either retracted into the shell conch or returned to the sea. Both sides of the shallows were endless. Behind Han Dong, there was an uphill road that led to the upper end of the sea cliff. Let's go up and take a look. However, just as Han Dong reached the top of the stairs, he stepped directly into a conference room with a familiar layout. Many familiar and unfamiliar faces were looking at Han Dong at the door of the conference room. Han Dong didn't feel any discomfort at all when faced with such a huge change in scenery. Moreover, Han Dong's clothes had turned into a white lab coat with a lot of plaque. Professor Han Dong, please take a seat. The course schedule for this semester has already been released. The course you're in charge of is the signature of our Life Sciences Academy, so I must explain it to you clearly. Yes, Dean Francesco. This was the University of Florence, where Han Dong worked before his death. The faculty and staff present were all his colleagues when he was alive. Han Dong didn't know when he had assumed the role of a professor. He even felt that he had forgotten the time of the meeting because he was doing an experiment. In front of the empty seat reserved for Han Dong, there was a sealed document bag. For some reason, the document bag was exuding a dark aura. Professor Han Dong, this is the most important course in our department. You have to prepare well and make the best courseware according to the textbook. There may be famous people from all over the world who will come to attend. No problem. When Han Dong opened the document bag in front of him and took out the textbook, he was stunned in front of his seat. A terrifying book that was constantly emitting a dark aura, and the aura itself, turned into a skull, was placed in front of him. The ancient text printed between the cover of the book was enough to make ordinary people fall instantly, beyond the scope of conventional biology. Professor Han Dong, is there a problem? At the same time, a strange question came from the dean's mouth. The voice became extremely strange, as if it was produced by a broken radio and then squeezed out through a withered throat. When Han Dong looked up and looked around, a large number of tentacles drilled out of the professor's mouths. Their skin was quickly falling off, revealing dark red muscles that were squirming. Buzz! Suddenly, a tingling sensation came from the depths of his brain. Han Dong had to hold his head. When the pain disappeared, everything in front of him returned to normal. The book in front of him became the normal human biology. Professor Han Dong, is there a problem? No problem. I'll take it seriously. It was as if nothing had happened. Han Dong got up and returned to his office and began to seriously create the courseware. This human biology book had a total of 8 chapters, covering every important part of the human body. Is this book incomplete? It doesn't include the contents of the brain. Forget it. That's it for now. The next day, Han Dong brought the courseware to the lecture hall. It was already crowded with students. Everyone had a greedy look in their eyes, and some students were even drooling. If Han Dong looked at them, they would wipe their saliva away and pretend to listen to the lecture normally. The lectern was unusually large, and there was a corpse on it for the lecture. When he stepped onto the lectern, Han Dong habitually used chalk to write his name on the blackboard to introduce himself. Warren. Nicholas, when he habitually wrote his name, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. So he immediately erased it and changed it to Dong. Han. This semester, I'll be explaining the human biology course. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand in class and ask me at any time after class. Today, I'll start with the first chapter. For some reason, when Han Dong flipped through the contents of the first chapter, he was very familiar with it and could even recite the contents backwards. At the end of the wonderful lecture, the audience burst into strong applause. Han Dong even occasionally glanced at the forehead of some students, and there was a strange living eye. In the blink of an eye, everything was normal again. His teaching life went on as usual, but the workload was not light at all. Except for the chapter on eyes, which was very smooth, the difficulty of the other chapters was unusually high. As a result, Han Dong had to slow down the pace of the class, and even discuss the obscure contents of the book with some students and teachers after class. Sometimes, he even needed to use various human experiments to understand and verify the contents of the certificate. Slowly, he even spent all his sleeping time on the interpretation of the textbook just to bring the best teaching content for the students. The camera pulled away from Han Dong and jumped out of the university campus, wrapped in thick white fog. They came to a dilapidated, ancient castle. There was a huge theater set up here. In the past, when Carcosa was still functioning normally, those who pursued souls, or those who wanted to ask the yellow-robed king, would come here to enjoy a stage play called The King in Yellow. This was the basic requirement set by the yellow-robed king. Enjoying the stage play was the most basic respect for him. Only those who could understand the meaning of the stage play were qualified to talk to him directly. At present, Han Dong, who was in a deep sleep of the soul, was tied up in a strange posture by yellow strips of cloth and hung in the middle of the stage. The yellow-robed king stood in front of him and used his slender fingers to cut open the skull and the outer surface of the soul. He reached out and stroked the brain between the skull and the skull-shaped inner soul. It seemed to be stroking, but in fact, it was inserting tentacles into the depths of the soul to create a different kind of soul dream for Han Dong. In this case, it should be helpful for the understanding of the Book of the Dead. Don't let me down, my only chosen messenger. Chapter 1902. When Han Dong was immersed in the soul dream and carried out a special form of demonic book cultivation. Several large-scale events that were closely related to him happened in the Black Tower one after another, and he even needed to get in touch with Han Dong directly. However, Han Dong, who was in the soul world, couldn't get in touch. One of the major events was directly related to Count. Scarlet Count, who went to this sub-super world, saint level, as the spokesperson of the Netherblood. In the ancient tomb, in the deepest part of the Forbidden Area, the origin of the sacred blood was found. There were even many streams in this tomb, and the sacred blood was constantly flowing out from inside. In the coffin sealed in the tomb, there was a huge corpse that had a strong connection with Count. However, the corpse's eyes had long been open, and it even sat up from the coffin as if it had been waiting for Count for a long time. The so-called sacred blood was a huge trap. This king's corpse which was still flowing with sacred blood after death, was buried in the deepest part of the forbidden area, or it could be said that it was sealed here. The reason was that the corpse was once the dictator of the saint-level world, the bloody titan, Serene. Back then, the saint level that was ruled by him was full of blood and slaughter. All the craftsmen not only had to go through hardships to find the truth, but they also had to fight and bleed for the necessary resources. In the end, Serene's rule was overthrown by the current Titan Council. He was also completely killed, and even his throne was completely overthrown, destroyed, and sealed in the deepest part of the Ghost Pass of the Divine Craftsman. However, although Serene was dead, his corpse had been flowing with sacred blood for millions of years, mixing into the bodies of the creatures in this forbidden area. A small number of Destiny travelers who went here might be stained with sacred blood during the battle. It wasn't just Count or the Hall family that was cursed by the sacred blood. In the worlds related to the Black Tower, there were also many Destiny travelers with the so-called sacred blood curse in their bodies. They had to constantly hunt evil creatures to obtain the necessary satisfaction. Otherwise, their bodies would suffer pain as if thousands of ants were gnawing on them. Even the sacred blood would take the initiative to strip the blood from their bodies and turn them into a dried corpse. In fact, this kind of forceful exorcism attribute was only urging the host to grow. As the carrier of the sacred blood grew stronger, it would gradually produce a sense of attraction in their minds, making them want to search for the origin of the sacred blood. However, so far, Cal was the only one who could go deep into the Ghost Pass of the Divine Craftsman and find the deepest tomb. His motive was obvious. Even before Count stepped into the tomb, he had already guessed it. The purpose of this Serene Titan leaking the holy blood was to select the best body to possess and be reborn. And Count, who came from Superworld and was favored by the Nether God, was the best candidate. The battle was about to begin. After going through the Nether blood baptism and relying on the Count from the demonic book, the 7 chapters of the Mystic Monarch, he didn't feel any fear when facing the corpse of this dead king. By replacing his own skull with the legendary equipment Underworld Blood Skull, he had transformed into a spokesperson in the true sense of the word, erupting with a power that surpassed that of a mythical body. After a certain amount of time, Cal was actually able to fight the Titan corpse head-on, and he wasn't even at a disadvantage. The battle that erupted in the depths of the ancient tomb directly caused a phenomenon. The sky above the Forbidden Zone, the Ghost Pass of the Divine Craftsman, was completely dyed red, and there was even a rain of blood dripping down. When the Titans from the Saint Stage world rushed over, after all, they were still mythical bodies, and they were in someone else's territory. Count gradually fell into a disadvantageous position in the later stages of the battle. When he was about to be killed, the blood that flowed out of his chest quickly floated up and condensed in the sky. A world passage formed by blood was connected to the superworld, Dawn of Terror. This was already considered a large-scale world intervention. It directly attracted the attention of the Black Tower. Generally speaking, the changes between worlds had to be allowed to happen naturally. If one wanted to carry out world intervention, they had to meet various conditions. For such a superworld to intervene in a sub-super world, it had to be approved by the Black Tower. Such direct interference, and even a collision at the rule level, was a major violation. Moreover, the people involved included the most terrifying lord of the underworld in Dawn of Terror. The World Inspection Bureau immediately listed this matter as a red incident and reported it to the higher-ups. They thought that they would arrange for a member of the Supreme will to personally lead a team to control the world. Unexpectedly, the order from the higher-ups was not to interfere and let the situation develop. The one who issued the order was Ms. Bay, who was in charge of balancing the world. Finally, with the personal intervention of the underworld god, the matter quickly calmed down. Count and the Titan's corpse were wrapped in a ball of blood and returned to Dawn of Terror. As for the Titans on the Saint-level side, they didn't care at all. Some of the Titans were even very happy after learning that this plot that had been laid out for 10,000 years had been destroyed. If Serene really took over and was reborn, What awaited them would be a huge disaster. Although taking the corpse away would cause the saint-level world to lose a path of holy blood, it could be considered as eliminating a huge hidden danger. A few months passed. Waves of blood aura seeped out of the world portal. Count returned to the Black Tower alone. He wrapped his body in a dark red robe with black edges, trying his best to hide his identity and not attract the attention of outsiders. Due to the issue of world intervention, although he didn't need to be interrogated or imprisoned, he still needed to write a written reflection to the Black Tower. Even though the robe covered most of his aura, the scarlet blood aura that leaked out was enough to make others retreat. Count came to the nearby Black Tower office and found an empty space to write a reflection. A familiar aura came from the side, accompanied by the heavy dragging sound of iron chains. Clang, clang. Bot Count. The voice seemed to come from the depths of hell, making Count suddenly stunned, and even instinctively overflowed with blood, wanting to defend. Immediately after, a saw was inserted in his head. His whole body was pierced with steel needles. The mythical demon, whose back and arms were dragging the iron chain through his flesh, had already sat down opposite him. One of the chains even exuded an aura directly related to the world. Toga Gonzalez, are you out? Count could barely be regarded as Han Dong's second consciousness, so he naturally knew the core anomaly. Then he looked behind him. The black-haired lady in red was slowly walking over with a deep-sea relative. Yes, we just finished the special trial, but I didn't expect it to be so many years. How is Lord Nicholas? We entrusted the Black Tower to contact him, but he hasn't responded, saying that he can't be contacted due to unknown obstacles. Now it seems that you can't contact him either. Could something have happened to Lord Nicholas? Toga showed an extremely uneasy expression. At this time, a slender hand full of warm blood lightly landed on his shoulder. Don't worry, Nicholas can't be in trouble. I was just busy and didn't have time to contact him. Since the Black Tower can't be contacted, he's probably in the depths of World S01. Although the Count pretended to be calm in the face of all this, but the place where his hand touched kept sending a strong needle pain, so painful that he almost wanted to bark, and his back was even covered in cold sweat. But he had to maintain his image as Count and Han Dong's important spokesperson. If you can't wait, let's go back to World S01 to find him. With this Count's connections, it should be easy to find him. Yes, it is indeed necessary to meet up with Lord Nicholas as soon as possible. Just as they were about to ask the staff to open the portal to World S01, asterisk boom, asterisk an extremely strong tremor came from above, directly causing the indestructible interior of the Black Tower to crack open and even the building to collapse. At the same time, it was accompanied by a strong, ear-piercing sound of space being torn apart. Many of the Destiny travelers in the Black Tower's plaza had their eardrums shattered by the violent sound of space being torn apart. Count immediately opened a bright red barrier, enveloping everyone inside. What's going on? This is the interior of the Black Tower, the safest center of the world. How could something like this happen? The tremor lessened slightly. When Count and the others rushed out of the Black Tower's office, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Looking up from the bottom of the Black Tower, the roof separating it from the middle layer had been completely torn apart. The important pillar that was supposed to be located in the middle, which was the main building corresponding to the control headquarters, had been uprooted and disappeared. Only a huge crack was left behind. Extremely unstable subspaces were scattered around, and subspace storms of different magnitudes could erupt at any time. So fast. It's faster than the shortest time estimated by more than a year. We have to hurry back to Nicholas's side. Chapter 1903. The Black Tower had envisioned many ways for the rampagers to escape, but what was happening in front of them was the most serious and worst kind. After all, the previous owner of the M alphabet had personally designed the headquarters to serve as the middle layer's core pillar. Whether it was the crystal pipes rooted in the ground, These pipes were connected to different pillars in the nearby streets, like strong and powerful ropes that fixed the building, or the multiple restrictive force fields that existed around the headquarters, and the control that came from the highest will. All kinds of designs superimposed on each other, making the control headquarters stable and unshakable. According to the design concept, even if the Black Tower was attacked by S-01's hybrid demon and most of the area was destroyed, the basic stability of the control headquarters could still be maintained. However, the Rampagers, through complete infiltration of the control headquarters (BC), technical mastery, and unpredictable means of losing control, used the headquarters as their base and moved everything in one go. The main reason was related to the Rubik's Cube that Han Dong had seen. As the BBC was completely stripped, the middle layer was paralyzed, and the department buildings near the center were also threatened by the subspace storm. Director Charles had taken action immediately, using the power of control to suppress these subspace rifts as much as possible, but the danger was still there. It wasn't just the Black Tower. Even the entire world of the Black Tower had a clear tremor. At the back of the world, in a position completely opposite the Black Tower, in a suspended building made of some kind of rare metal, a middle-aged man wearing metal glasses woke up in a special state. He adjusted his glasses slightly to align his pupils. At the same time, he reached out to comb his slightly curly blonde hair and tied a small braid at the back for the convenience of his next move. When he tried to get up, his body had already appeared at the outermost edge of the suspended temple. It was as if he could directly feel the specific situation inside the Black Tower. It's actually a year faster than the shortest time expected, and the entire BBC was moved away. Is this really a hidden danger left behind at that time? The Rampagers have now obtained the Rubik's Cube by integrating the world together through technology. It's equivalent to them holding a space authority that even the Black Tower can't reach. This mess is really not easy to clean up. That's all I can do. Although I haven't fully recovered, it's almost there. Wong, that person disappeared again. In just a few seconds, he crossed this huge world zero, ignoring the outer barrier of the Black Tower, and directly appeared in the area of the incident. This process did not produce any spatial fluctuations. It was as if he was moving at an unnatural speed. Many people with the highest consciousness had already arrived in the middle layer, and they were currently trying to find ways to maintain stability and eliminate risks. At a glance, the middle-aged man saw his colleague who had just arrived. He was wearing a white suit with the word imprinted on it. "Minter, you're here. Come over quickly." Listening to the familiar voice, Min Toa, who had just arrived, was also stunned. He even broke out in cold sweat. "Mr. In, have you recovered?" As a holder of the same alphabet, the only person that Minter was in awe of was this person. Charles's condition won't last long. The other's methods are only slowing down and stalling for time so that Bay can think of a way to balance it out. This can't go on. If a subspace storm erupted in any of the rifts, it would trigger a chain reaction in the other rifts. Every department in the middle layer would suffer, and the Black Tower would fall into a state of paralysis. Spend a little price to stabilize the situation. You build the model, and I'll seal it. This all right. Minter was also very uncomfortable. He did not know how much of his origin liquid would be consumed by this force modeling. However, he could not refuse the other party's request. Moreover, if this dragged on, Director Charles would really be in danger. Suddenly, a large amount of milky white liquid gushed out from the rift. As a holder of the M alphabet, Minter had received careful guidance from his predecessor when he was young. His brain stored BC's design blueprint. With this blueprint as the foundation, he would build a one model. Of course, the main purpose was to build a similarly stable headquarters building, mainly in the external structure, piping system, and basic framework. As for the internal complex layered structure, he would not rebuild it. As long as he could quickly build a similarly stable headquarters building, he could plug the rift. Just as the white modeling fluid was about to take shape, Mr. and stretched his right arm forward. Some kind of metal material invisible to the naked eye immediately acted on the surface of the modeling fluid. Some kind of thin metal layer that could not be analyzed by technology was already attached to the surface. At the same time, it formed various barrier stripes that symbolized stability. Even the subspace rift near the building was wrapped by metal balls. Mr. N patted Minter's back gently. Minter, you've become a lot stronger. I just wanted you to use the modeling fluid to build a cube to fill the gap. As a result, you directly made me a replacement for the headquarters building. That's ridiculous. I recently heard that you want to hand over the M alphabet. This matter needs to be carefully considered. I think you can still work for 100 years. If you have any requests, just tell me. You don't have to apply through Bay. Thank you, Mr. N. I just met a very good young man and trained him. I have no intention of handing over the alphabet. Teacher once left the blueprint of the General Control Department in my brain. Since I want to fill the gap, I'll use it directly. It's a bit tiring, but this way, stability can be maintained for a long time. Everyone can have time to think about countermeasures. I need to rest. I'll leave the rest to you. Mr. N. Okay, go ahead. Ms. Bay, who symbolized balance, stood not far away. Her voice was also heard. Mr. N., I'm sorry to disturb you in advance. I didn't expect things to happen a year earlier than expected. I have to arrange for the world administration to quickly inform the major worlds about what happened here. At the same time, I need to personally go to S-01 and tell the group of hybrid demons about the escape. I'll leave the situation in the Black Tower to you to handle. Go ahead. Seeing that this person had come out of seclusion, Ms. Bay did not hesitate at all and directly gave all authority to him. To be precise, it should be returning authority. This Mr. N was the holder of the letter A and also the recognized master of the Black Tower. It stood for Adam. On the other side, on the surface, he said that he wanted a rest. In fact, he didn't want to rest at all. He just didn't like to stay by Mr. N's side. Mr. N's invisible sense of control made him uncomfortable. And since the Rampagers had escaped with the General Control Department building, this meant that they did not need to build a city or other collective places. The internal integration would be completed in a short time, and soon they would launch a full-scale invasion of the multiverse. Minter had to warn the worlds under his jurisdiction. Soon, the escape routes of the various worlds will be opened according to the size and order of the world. The Black Tower world will soon be crowded with refugees from various worlds. I don't want to burden this place. Just lead some worlds directly to S-01. When the time comes, just let Nicholas make the connection. Chapter 1904. The Black Tower has officially entered a Level 1 alert state. 1. Close all world passages. 2. Suspend the Destiny Realm system. Ongoing Destiny events will not be affected. 3. The Black Tower's internal trading system is in a semi-open state. Some materials cannot be exchanged for the time being. 4. All Destiny travelers who are active in the Black Tower are prohibited from returning to their original world. At the same time, they will be forcibly recruited by the Black Tower to assist the relevant departments in maintenance and control work. 5. At the same time, a world conference will be held. Only Sub-Superworld and Superworld node holders can participate. The main content of the conference is to inform them of the crisis situation and provide them with some information about the Rampagers. The most important point is to ask them to temporarily put down their conflicts and establish communication channels between the worlds. Once a world is invaded by a Rampager, other worlds can quickly provide assistance. Of course, this assistance is not mandatory. If it is determined that the Rampager has completely infiltrated a world, the world passage connected to it can even be automatically closed. 6. According to the size and order of the world, the escape channel to the Black Tower will be established. The main life of each world will be accepted in an orderly manner. Of course, the number of lives accepted will be proportional to the contribution made by the world. No matter how large the Black Tower world is, it can't accommodate all the lives of thousands of worlds. All kinds of security measures are being carried out in an orderly manner. This also caused Count and the others' application to go to S01 to be rejected. What should we do? After Nicole heard the situation from the staff, her pink tentacles uncontrollably overflowed from her body. A long fingernail, emitting resentment, gently stroked Nicole's head. It's okay. This dog will definitely have a way. Who's a dog? Count glared at Chun-Li fiercely. Of course, it was just a glance, and he didn't take it seriously. The Count said helplessly, "That's right. I didn't expect that we would be stuck at this point. No matter what, we have to find a way to go back. We can only go to the Fight Club and find an opportunity to use Han Dong's connections. Maybe we can open a back door. At this critical moment, the lunatics in the club probably won't force us to fight." However, just as Count was about to step out of the Black Tower office, he was immediately stopped by a group of law enforcers wearing whirlpool masks. "The four of you, according to the Treaty of Fate you have signed. When the Black Tower enters Level 2 Alert or above, it has the right to call upon the Destiny Travelers who are active within the Black Tower. According to the treaty, if an individual refuses to be conscripted, they will be stripped of all qualifications related to the Black Tower. They will not be entitled to any preferential treatment in the future, nor will they be able to participate in any journeys of fate." Wait, we didn't sign a contract. We came here through Nicholas, so he should be the one to sign the contract. By the way, the name he registered with you should be Han Dong. When the Count said this name, he was stunned. The magistrate's mask immediately rotated. The name, Han Dong, had spread like wildfire recently. The leading law enforcer immediately verified the identities of Count and the others. According to the records, just as Count said, the four of them were tied to Han Dong. The other party's tone immediately softened. "You have a master-servant relationship with Mr. Han Dong. He arranged for you to participate in the Destiny experience here, but he didn't expect to encounter the current crisis. In this case, the Black Tower indeed has no right to forcibly conscript you. Please wait a moment. I will report your situation and see what the higher-ups will do." Unexpectedly, the situation was reported for less than 2 minutes. Drip, a drop of white mucus fell to the ground. It quickly constructed a handsome uncle in a white suit and leather shoes, without even having time to put on a mask. "Mr. M." The magistrates immediately knelt on one knee. Mr. M's eyes only stayed on Count and the others. "It's a bit difficult to directly learn S01 now. Come with me first. Do something for me first. When the time comes, you will naturally have the opportunity to go to S01 with me. Don't worry, you will meet Han Dong sooner or later. Moreover, you may not be able to keep up with Han Dong's current level. I will give you some special opportunities. It's up to you to grasp them. Sorry to trouble you, Mr. M." Hearing this, Count's desire to return to Han Dong's side was instantly reduced by 80%. Having just tasted the sweetness of the saint level, his sense of opportunity was very accurate. As he needed to come back to write a reflection, Count hadn't completely absorbed the Titan's corpse. If Mr. M was to provide an opportunity, and it was to leave Han Dong aside and provide an opportunity to himself alone, Count was 100 times willing. Or rather, Count wanted to return with a completely different attitude, a return that could reflect his endless potential, achievements, and a return that was in line with his Scarlet Count, Underworld Blood spokesperson, and a series of titles. He was extremely eager to see a shocked expression on Han Dong's face. Just as Count was about to ask Mr. M where he wanted them to go, the modeling fluid had already wrapped around their bodies. They only felt that they were undergoing an unobstructed ultra-fast shuttle. When the fluid dissipated, everyone was already standing on the top of a mountain. This mountain existed in the fourth dimension, standing in the middle of hundreds of worlds. Standing at the top of the mountain, one could see the general situation of many worlds. These worlds are all modeled and created by me. They are pure original worlds and are extremely valuable. They must not be affected by the rampager. I need you to help me pass on a message here. Worlds like Corpse Country that have a relationship with Han Dong will establish a connection with S01. As for other unrelated worlds, I will establish a secret passage connecting to the Black Tower through the back door I set up and send some important people over first. This is my handwritten order. You just need to show it to them. Run. Errands? Count originally thought that there would be some opportunity, but he didn't expect that the treatment was similar to when he was with Han Dong. If you don't want to, you can wait here. Run. It's an honor to run errands for Mr. M. Count had already knelt on one knee and received a special handwritten order. You need to know that these worlds were created by me personally. There must be some differences in them. Whether you can find the opportunity while running errands depends on you. Okay. Count already showed an impatient look and instinctively got on all fours. He almost barked twice. After getting Mr. M's permission, he immediately set off for the first world. Chun-Li and Nicole also hurriedly followed. While going down the mountain, Count was a little dissatisfied with the slow speed of the people behind him, especially Nicole, who used her tentacles to move forward. Considering that they were also important servants of Han Dong and had experience in fighting together, he reluctantly let them ride once, just once. In addition, when Toga was about to follow, he was suddenly put on his shoulder by a hand. The most special group in Hell monks. At the same time, they are also individuals chosen by D and have developed for a period of time in Draytown. This time, they achieved the ultimate trial in Clive Barker's Jericho and reached the mythical stage. Nicholas has a good eye for people. If you're given a few more years, you can participate in the Demon King assessment in Hell. Moreover, the chains on your body seem to exude an aura that I am somewhat familiar with. As he spoke, Mr. M's palms slowly moved downwards. When he touched the chain wrapped around Togu's right arm, he immediately felt the power of the world contained inside. Togu also immediately explained, "This is the world chain brought out by the corpse country. Because it was useless at that time, I just happened to be able to control it." Nicholas handed the chain to me. At present, the other chains in my body have also undergone subtle changes due to the introduction of the world chain. This time, I was able to quickly break through the mythical body, which is also closely related to the chain. The world chain is not something that can be controlled casually. You don't have to run errands with them. You could do me another favor. Can you see the situation below clearly? Mr. M stood on the cliff and pointed down between the clouds and mist. I'm not very clear. I have almost no cultivation in my eyes. I can't compare with Lord Nicholas at all. In this case, you should be able to see clearly, right? A thin layer of modeling fluid covered Toga's eyeballs, and the visual enhancement was more than 10 times. At the mountainside, there was a huge chain that connected all the worlds that could be seen from here. The world chain transcends the conventional dimensions and exists as the foundation of the rules. It was created by me personally. This is the first time I have seen a special individual like you who can control the chains. Now, you have to help drag the chains and let these worlds gather towards the World Mountain. I will give you as many chains as you can drag the worlds. Thank you, Lord. Toga's expression didn't change much, and he didn't realize what kind of opportunity this was. He just treated it as a job. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.